Welcome to Game Thoughts, my podcast regarding my thoughts in relation to games and other gaming related topics. And on today's episode, we've got notes. I wrote notes down in here because, I will have ideas. I might be laying in bed at night. I might be taking a bath. It's weird. I often have some of my best ideas when I'm laying in a bath. I'm like my mind starts going in all these places and I have ideas. And then later on, I forget about it all. Like the next day, I'm completely forgot about it. I have no idea. It could be months. Maybe I never remember it again. So I've been taking a few notes, just little couple sentences here and there on various ideas. Let's see what I got. Because I've been wanting to have another one of my game thoughts videos, podcasts, and I'm trying to improve on it. And also I want to mention, I want to try not to be as critical and as harsh. I don't want to be a complete asshole. It's just sometimes, it comes out of me. I'm human. But I want to work on that. I want to try to be more reasonable and fair when I assess something and not get caught up in hype or in a larger, kind of socially engineered narrative. Because it seems to me like there's a lot of what I would call social engineering going on, where a large group of people are being kind of manipulated and swayed and pulled in different directions, whether they realize it or not, without taking a step back and paying attention from their own personal observation point and analyzing something reasonably and more fairly. I was kind of thinking about, I don't even have this written down in my notes, but I was kind of thinking about talking briefly, maybe. I'm not very educated on anything, but on some of the AI talk that goes on. It's a new technology that's rising up, it's bubbling up. And I get really upset about it myself because I keep seeing all of these resources being wasted, all this money being spent on seemingly no return. And all I'm seeing and hearing is negativity about how awful this is. And I see, right, oftentimes you've got billionaires and trillionaires, a lot of these people, they don't appear to be good people, And so that's part of the conversation too. They have their own objectives that oftentimes we don't align with. They don't have the best intentions of other people in mind. They have the best intentions of themselves in mind at the expense of us. And so I get pretty fucking upset about that kind of thing. But at the same time, I notice myself being pulled along in this socially engineered narrative without me taking a step back and making up my own mind about something and looking at it from a different kind of from a farther viewpoint. I'm looking out from the top of a mountain or something and I'm observing these, I'm an alien or something, and I'm observing another race or another civilization or something. And when I do that, my opinion changes a little bit. And I see a lot of correlations between old people that grew up riding horses, and then they see roads being paved and people getting cars. And they're like, oh, fuck that, dude. Are you kidding me? Think I'm going to buy one of those dumb fucking things and drive that stupid thing around? And you're destroying the environment to drive that pile of metal shit with dumbass wheels on it. When we've got something that we know works way better, a horse, it can go anywhere. It can go through the water. It can go through the mountains. It can go through canyons, across the fucking country. and we have a bond with this creature, and it's worked for thousands of years, and now some rich billionaire is gonna trick us all into buying his junk products, and over time the whole landscape of the planet changed, and everybody's got a car. Everybody's totally okay with billions of cars in junkyards just piled to the sky with cars. The ocean's half filled with them, probably. They're fine with it because it's convenient for them. They like having it. They feel cool when they take their Instagram selfie and they got their fucking hat on backwards and their car just got out of the detailer, and they think they're special because it's shiny and it's got a name brand on it. And they got 3 of them. They got the newest limited edition model. They got a fucking the engine's been modified and the muffler's loud and it's sound pollution and it's polluting the air and it's cool. That's totally fine. That's cool. And I pick up chicks in it. I'm a cool dude. Or chicks driving around thinking she's hot with this dumbass fucking Ferrari or something. You know, and they're crashing into people and destroying other buildings, and they throw it away after a few years. It's leaking oil and shit all over the fucking place, and they're burning up the fucking natural resources because it's cool and it's convenient. And I get to go to the mall, and I get to go get my nails done, and I get to go whatever the fuck people do with their cars. It's totally cool. Everyone's fine with billions of these fucking things. So half the planet's asphalt and concrete. But if some billionaire wants to have a data center to try to innovate and have a new technology, everybody's talking about it's ending the world. And when I take a step back and I look at it, I see these kind of similarities. Like a lot of us, people that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s or older, they're becoming the old people. They're becoming like your parents and your grandparents. And your kids are probably making fun of you behind your back to their friends, you know? And you're going to get phased out, whether you like it or not. You're just going to get phased out. Well, I'm never going to use that. It's garbage. And then in a few years, you're going to use it. You're already using it. Do you shop on Amazon? Do you use your phone for anything? Because every single app and service behind the scenes is using it. And so you're using it. When you're buying shit on Amazon, you're participating. It's convenient though. It was okay because I'm getting some food and I'm getting some cool clothes and I'm buying some video games and electronics. I'm not using it really. It's but you really are. Dumbass, you stupid fuck. Throw your phone away, right? If you don't want innovation and technological advancement, we're just going to stop right here now. We're never going to advance or evolve technologically for the next billion years because you don't know much about it, but you've heard on Reddit, you heard on a podcast that it does some things environmentally you don't like or uses a lot of power, and then you went and bought an RTX 5090 for $5,000 because it's cool and you get to play your video games with better graphics, and it uses what's that thing use 600 fucking watts for one video card to play with some fucking toys. It's a toy. It's a glorified fucking toy. 600 watts just for your toy. You one person. How many people have a computer with a video card and a CPU that's using probably 1,000 watts per person? Was this different? Not really. I just want to take a step back and I look at it. My opinion kind of changes a little. And I don't know enough about the technology, but I keep hearing about all of these innovations and problems being solved in the science community. Shit that I'm too stupid to understand. But it's if these smart people are finding use for it and every single business seems invested in it heavily, something's probably going to happen with it. Whether you like it or not, it's going to mature in a way that probably changes the world in some ways bad, just like technology has now, right? Just like electricity has and any kind of technology. It gets used for the wrong things, you could say. It gets used for evil. Every single thing. Everything. I mean, holy shit, dude. I just tried uploading a YouTube video and it got blocked globally by what I believe is an AI fake artist for a video game, for music they don't own, they didn't make. And like thousands of people have the same video already uploaded, the same game. I myself played the same game on my PS5 like a few months ago and it didn't get blocked. And now I played it on PC and it got blocked from AI, some AI artist saying that like they own the music. And it's like they're using technology in a kind of an evil way, you know? And it's like everything can be exploited, but there's potentially going to be some use cases that are like life changing. You know, you look at some of the technologies that have come about over the years, like GPS. And then you think like what an undertaking it would be to get there, from before having the ability to even send a craft into space to suddenly you can just pull out a device from your pocket and anywhere in the world that you want to go, it just tells you where to go. Like down to like the fucking, like a foot. Like when I was young, like in the 90s or in the 80s, you had to get a map out and it was fucking confusing and complicated and you often got lost and never found your destination. I can remember times going on a trip for hours with a map and never finding the destination and having to go home like we failed. I don't know how, I don't know why we can't find it. We're using the map. We went exactly where it said, is not there. I don't know where to go. We spent hours looking for this fucking place. We went on every fucking road and that was just how it was. And now you can just pull out your phone or your watch or something. And it, just like a simple tool like that is life changing. And it's like, you can't even realistically, you probably can't even imagine where a tool or technology like AI could bring us in the future. I think it's wrong to just write it off as some kind of evil technology that doesn't deserve to have a place, because we don't know enough about its potential unless you've spent a lot of time researching it and you're like basically like a scientist and you've worked with it and developed it, then maybe you can speak about it intelligently. But I feel like most people put in about 0% effort. Their effort when they act like I researched it, dude, going on the internet and using Google's AI to research it doesn't count. When Gemini gives you like a fucking answer and then you're like, I hate AI, I don't use it. And it's like, how did you research it? Wait, fuck you, shut up. You know what I mean? Or like some post, you read a post on a forum. Well, I trust that guy. He sounds smart. He writes long posts that are like inappropriately long in places that they don't belong. Like this guy's probably got some kind of condition. Like he's got a problem, like social issues and communicating. You don't leave a 20-page post in a area where you normally have like a 1-sentence conversation with people. You ever see that kind of shit where it's like the comment section under an article and it's really meant to be like, hey, I like that article, or that's incorrect and here's why. And then you get somebody that comes out with like 20 pages. It just keeps scrolling and scrolling. It's like, dude, that book doesn't belong here, dude. You need to fucking like take a step back and look at yourself and just realize that you went too far. You have social issues, I think. You do that shit in public, dude? Do you have an issue in public where people kind of like avoid you a lot? Because you probably do that to them and they don't want to talk to you. I've done that. I've talked way too long to somebody about something they don't care about and I don't know when to shut up. So like I kind of know what I'm talking about. Don't do that. Try to learn and get better. But I just feel like it's important to kind of take a step back sometimes and be a little more like, look at yourself and how are you acting, and also think like, am I being like fair in this assessment? Do I know what I'm talking about? Do I understand everything that exists? Some people think they do. You ever work with those fucking people? There's that guy at work. This kind of like, he's kind of maybe a little bit of a shithead. And he's kind of cocky. There's something about him rubs you the wrong way, but he seems to know everything. And he sure thinks he does. He knows everything. Anything you talk about, if he overhears it, he's going to come over and insert himself into the conversation. Then he's going to school everybody on it. He knows everything because he reads a lot of internet posts. He spends a lot of time on forums and reads a lot of comment sections. He reads a lot of like titles, articles. He reads the first sentence. That guy, I fucking can't stand that guy. God damn it, dude. Nobody can know everything. You'd have to be a god. And so maybe some people think they are. That's also an issue for sure. I got news for you. We're not, dude. We're all a bunch of dumbass monkeys. A bunch of stupid, dirty animals at the end of the day. That's what every one of us. But let's see what I got here for notes. I had some physical media ideas. Physical media is something I talked about in some previous videos. It's still a hot topic. There's still a lot of websites milking the shit out of that Sony announcement. They're milking that pitch dry. Dude, it's like fucking like cheese curds starting to come out of that thing. It's getting dried out. And they're really trying to get everything they can out of that topic. I still occasionally see the YouTube thumbnails with the black and white background of a game store and the content creator collector guy that's got way too much shit. It looks like a garbage dump in his house. And he's got like a tear coming down his face that he like photoshopped in, or like flames on around his head with horns. And there's like a picture, like Sony symbol with an X over it. And I'm still seeing those. They're still milking it too. Are they really that upset? I talked about this in my physical media little bonus episode that I'm going to redo one of these days when I get a better setup. Because eventually what I want to have, my fantasy scenario, I have a lot. We're not going to talk about all of them right now. But I want to have like a really sick computer. I used to build computers professionally. I've built tens of thousands. I've built server racks for OnLive. I've seen what they put in those things back when that was a company. Like I used to know what I was doing. And so like I feel like I have some knowledge when it comes to at least hardware and assembly. And so I like building that stuff. And I would always build my own system. I love the idea of getting an RTX 5090. And to be honest, I haven't researched all the newest tech because I don't have the money to buy it. What's the point? Because by the time I would have the money to buy it, it'd be something so much better years down the road that why would I even waste my time learning about the old ass outdated shit that no one wants now? So I don't know what the newest model is because there's a new one like every 6 months. But like, I don't know what CPU I should get if I had the money. But in my mind, it's like, well, I'd get probably whatever the sickest, highest end CPU is, whatever one gets the best benchmarks and seems to have the most like compatibility with tools that I use. Like it needs to work with Ableton Live and Reaper really well and all my plugins. It would have to be suitable for Windows and for gaming. And I would want a workstation really. And I like RTX 5090 sounds pretty solid, but maybe by the time I have the money, it'll be like an 8090. But like, you know, I'd want something really nice and beefy. And obviously like I choose all the parts and put it together myself. And then I want to have fucking this camera I have on me now. I want to have a couple of cameras like that. And I want to have one that faces down like at a table so I can show some of my stuff. And I want to redo my physical media video someday and talk about some cool physical media. Cause like even the physical media you get now, like it's junk. It's not cool. They still make records, but I feel like even those aren't really that cool anymore. They're not like they're kind of like buying a NES reproduction cart. They're kind of like that. You know, you get those NES or Genesis reproduction carts and they're like translucent colors and they just look kind of cheap and fake because they are. That's kind of what records look like now. Some of them, a lot of them. And CDs, even CDs aren't cool anymore because they don't come in those nice jewel cases. They come in this junk, like disposable, what is it, cardboard, like a little cardboard book or sleeve. And then the part the disc snaps into, it's like a piece of plastic that's glued onto the fucking cardboard. And if you have that in an area that gets hot, it just fucking comes off. It just comes right the fuck off, dude. But whereas I have jewel cases that I bought in the 90s and they're still like fucking perfect. They don't even make them like that anymore. Most of the ones I see aren't like that. Maybe there are still some. But it's not cool anymore. Like buying a PS5 game, a PS4 game, a Switch game, I talked about it. That stuff sucks. That's not a cool collection. That's not cool physical media. It's garbage. It's trash tier physical media. It's like you bought all your physical media off like fucking Temu or something. It's junk. Whereas the stuff we used to get is still cool. You know, I tried showing it off in my video that I did, my bonus episode that sucks. I tried to hold it up to the camera, but like I have this Evangelion Laserdisc collection. That shit looks so sick. It still looks so fucking good. And it's heavy as fuck, dude. It's so heavy. You know, PS1 games, having like a copy of Xenogears or Lunar the Silver Star Story complete, Lunar Eternal Blue complete. That's pretty cool. You know, Valkyrie Profile, having a Black Label Chrono Cross. It's pretty cool. Or having like a Sega Saturn game. Dude, they're both cool. Like the US Sega Saturn games and probably the European ones too. I just don't have any of those. Or the Japanese ones. They're both cool. Because the ones in the US, they came in those like kind of long boxes, but they were like kind of beefy and thick and they had the hard plastic case and some of them still had cool art. And then the Japanese ones came in sick jewel cases with a spine card and even better art most of the time. They were both cool as hell. Neo Geo fucking games, the AES carts, the original boxes or the later like snap lock cases or whatever they're called, Genesis box. Like all that stuff was so cool. You know, the N64 sucks. Like that fucking console, dude. Even the games that we got in the US, they came in like the shittiest, chintziest, like paper box that just fell to pieces the day you opened it. At least the Japanese boxes held up better. And the insert that the cartridge went into was like thick, durable plastic, and it holds up over time. Those N64 games in the US are like, they're all collapsed. The whole box just collapses. It looks like a fucking envelope. It's got like rips and shit all over it. You basically just threw it away after you bought the game. It was that shitty. That kind of sucked. I feel like Nintendo's always had shit boxes. I don't think they ever had nice boxes. Even the original NES was like a shitty paper box. Super NES, shitty paper box. And the N64. It wasn't until the GameCube that we started getting some kind of decent packaging where it was like a hard case and it had a little mini disc. But physical media, I don't want to get too off topic on it because this isn't a bonus episode about the old stuff. We'll do that again someday. I hope. But my ideas were for like future physical media. You know, Sony's like, hey, we're not doing it, guys. Like, stop, get the fuck over it. Like, grow the fuck up. Yeah, you don't get to play with your toys in your hands. Like the medium is maturing and it's becoming. It's like this. I heard this, like, it's not really a podcast. It was a recording that I heard on YouTube a couple of years ago. It was like Terrence McKenna talking about how someday everything would be made of light. We would no longer buy physical media and physical objects, that everything that we used in the future was going to be made with light. And that's pretty much what's happening. He saw the future. All those fucking hallucinogens he took, he really saw it, dude. And so I was thinking, and it's just kind of for fun, you know, it's like fantasy stuff, but I feel like it could potentially work and it would be cool. I think it would be neat. So I was thinking, like, what would be like a physical media sort of object that Sony could do without making the physical games that would still satisfy the collectors? There's always going to be those people out there that like to buy shit. They like to get stuff. They want to own real things. They want to have something on a shelf. They want to have the room just full of stuff so that they feel safe. You know, it's all like cluttered around them, I guess. And so I was thinking, it sounds kind of, parts of the idea might sound kind of shitty. It kind of is. It's a little scummy. I mean, all physical media at the end of the day, right? It's like a company came up with an idea to like manipulate and fool you into spending money. Most of it at the end of the day really is kind of a waste of money and time. All of it, probably. So my thinking was this, at least a few ideas. There could be better ideas, I'm sure. More ideas. But I was thinking, when you could go on PSN, which will probably suck because it's such a bad place to shop. It's so bad. And I can't imagine it getting better. I hope it does. But you either would go on something like PSN to buy your game digitally. And at the end of the day, that would probably be very convenient. You just like press a couple buttons on your controller, hit buy, and then wait for it to download. And you're playing your game. But some people want to go to the store, they want to buy something, or they want to order it and have it delivered to them nowadays. They don't want to go anywhere. Some people still go to the store. There's still some of that. I would go if I had money and I had a way to get there. I'd probably still go. I used to love going to the game store. It felt good. It was like, I felt like I was kind of socializing and interacting with people. At least like, it was kind of like something I looked forward to at the end of every week. I'd go to the store and I'd talk to the assistant manager, whoever he was, about games. And then I'd always buy something and it became sort of like a ritual. I did it for a couple of years. So like, what could you still do if they're not going to have an actual game disc or cartridge? Like, what are they even going to have? Maybe they're going to have like a credit card looking thing that has like the name of the game on it. Or maybe it's literally just you buy like a PSN points and then you can get anything you want with it. You know, like the idea that for your birthday or for Christmas, if you're the gamer in the family, you get like a card with like a PSN card on it. And it's got like, I don't know, like $100 or something on it. So that you can buy like half the game or something. That's not cool though. You know, that's not going to feel that good. At the end of the day, you're going to be like, well, it's cool. I can get a game now. I was thinking, and maybe it sounds kind of dumb and cheap at first, but like, let me finish the whole thought. Imagine you get like a pack of cards It's like a pack of Pokemon cards. Those are really popular. They sell like hotcakes. They're constantly selling out, and they're cool cards. They look cool. I used to buy Pokemon cards once in a while about 20 years ago, and I thought they looked kind of cool. And then I'm like, why am I buying these? These are dumb kids' cards. What am I going to do with them? And then I stopped buying them. But that stuff looks cool. And I like X-Men cards. I used to buy those when I was a child in the 90s. I would buy X-Men cards and they looked cool. And I'd get like a booster pack. And sometimes there'd be like a prism card or a holographic card. I remember getting this Venom card one time. That was like a hologram card. I started buying Wolverine cards and I was trying to collect the whole prism set. And I got all but one. And I don't have it anymore. I wish I still had all those. That stuff was cool. And now imagine a new Marvel game comes out, that Marvel Tokon or whatever the hell it's called, or that Wolverine game. Imagine something like that comes out and you go to the store and you get some kind of game card that's got like a code on it that you redeem for the game, which is probably, I'm assuming it's something like that they might do. And maybe it looks cool. Maybe it actually looks kind of cool. It's like durable. It has like some cool fucking graphics on it. Maybe a little holographic symbol. So it almost looks a little bit collectible. But then imagine it comes with like a pack of fucking Marvel collectible cards that were made. It's like some kind of deal with Sony. Like they're Sony cards and it's a collaboration with Marvel. They partnered and they're like real Marvel cards for this like Sony card product. And they get the real like Marvel artists to make new exclusive art for these fucking cards. And some of the cards are like limited edition. So there's like that collecting mentality. Like, well, sometimes the booster pack or the pack of cards will have like a rare variant that's shiny and looks cool. And then imagine all the cards have some kind of fucking code on them to redeem for shit in the game that maybe you can only get with the cards. Or I don't know, maybe you can buy that stuff piecemeal online, but if you buy the pack of cards, maybe it's a little less money, but you never know what you're going to get. And sometimes you get lucky and you get like really fucking valuable stuff that would cost more money if you were to go buy it. Or maybe you only can get some of that rare stuff with the cards. And then people start like trading the cards or selling them on eBay because it's the only way you can get it. And then imagine, this is where it gets a little scummy. Imagine some of the cards are for like a rare trophy. A trophy you can only get with the cards. So if you want to platinum a game, you can't unless you get the cards. Some people would probably really hate that. But I feel like it might sell cards. I've never cared about trophies. I've always thought it was really fucking stupid. From day one, I'm like, fuck you. Fuck, I don't give a fuck about a trophy. What am I, 5? You ever work at a job where there's like, you know, like the corporate people are in the same building and they try to get you excited about like a trophy? Guys, we all have to work real hard this month so we can win this trophy. And like, you care that much about trophies, dude? Are you the guy that goes back to like your workstation? Like, all right, guys, come on, let's go. We got to win this dumb fucking plastic trophy for the fucking manager so he can put it on his desk and pretend that we won something. Are you fucking kidding me? Were you stupid fuck? You're buying into that dumb shit, dude? Go buy the cards. You deserve that. But I feel like that might be something that would sell. The trophy card, limited, you can only platinum the game unless you, or maybe it's like not a platinum. They come up with a new tier. It's like diamond. You want the diamond trophy? You got to start buying those fucking cards, man. But I think the idea of having some cards that are cool, like Marvel cards with real Marvel artists that look sick and they have redeemable items or spells or something. And then imagine like when Square Enix had that collaboration with Magic the Gathering and those things sold the fuck out like immediately. Everybody wanted those Final Fantasy cards. Now imagine Square Enix doing rare like collectible cards for their games. And all of a sudden you've got like all the Super Nintendo characters and they commissioned some of the original artists and, you know, the ones that they could, or they get some really like high quality artists to do the fucking art for like all these Final Fantasy games, all the way up to like your favorite games from the PlayStation and the Super Nintendo and beyond. And it's got all this new art. It's not just the old art. It's like they got the artists to make brand new fucking new original art pieces for these cards. And some of them are rare and it's like Tifa. She's got like some hot ass outfit on. She's got like a really hot bathing suit. And you can only get that bathing suit in the game unless with that card. And it's a card looks so hot, you want it anyway. You get like the whole Tifa set. You got like a whole page in your card binder for Tifa. Like, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people would be into it. And then you get like all kinds of items and equipment and spells and potions and shit with the cards. And you can collect them, and they're like real cards that are collectible and valuable, and people are trading them, but they also have codes on them. And it's not going to cost that much for fucking Sony to put a pack of cards with a game code in a little cool box that looks collectible on a shelf. Maybe they stylize the box to look almost like a fucking PS1 box or something. Or it looks like a mini disc box. It's like a miniature PS1 box and they make it look cool as fuck. And you're like, actually, dude, that looks cool as hell. I kind of want that. And then you're going to start seeing like, you're going to see like when you go online and you get like a feed from Google or something, or you see on like social media or gaming websites, tech websites, all of their like thumbnail photos are going to be like a picture of that pack of cards or of one of the rare cards or of like the cool mini PS1 styled like card box. And it's going to be like, they're going to be taking the photo at like an angle with like a really high quality, like a $10,000 fucking mirrorless camera. And it's going to have like a crazy amount of like bokeh. I think it's actually pronounced bokeh, where you get that blur in the background, and they're going to put like Christmas lights in the background or something, so it looks real cool. They're going to do all that to take a picture of this game box, and then it's going to be like the thumbnail on their article. Like, you see that stupid shit people do with games? They put it outside like on a tree branch, and the sun's shining on it. They make it look like it grew off the tree or something. It's a Super Nintendo game. It's fucking stupid. They put it next to like a flower, and then they change like the depth so it blurs in the background. And it's fucking stupid. Anyway, I think that the card idea is kind of neat because there's so many different properties. There's so many different IPs, and they're recognizable, and people like the art. They like the Final Fantasy characters and that art. Dragon Quest, they like that stuff. And Marvel, some of Sony's stuff, I think people would be into. A lot of the newer stuff they have doesn't seem that cool, but they'd probably find it. I mean, I wouldn't want to have like God of War cards, but some people might like it. You know, I'm trying to think of like Nintendo had some ideas that I think are kind of, you could draw inspiration from it. You think about how they had that NFC reader in the 3DS that did almost nothing. They had an NFC reader in the Wii U gamepad. It did almost nothing. And I'm not sure, there might be an NFC reader in the Switch. Honestly, not sure. They probably, I would imagine, because they still have the amiibos and those have like NFC chips in them. They kind of had some ideas there with that, and they just they didn't take it all the way. They didn't go far enough with the idea and make it cool enough. Most people probably don't even know those things fucking have NFC in them or care. It's not really meaningful enough. And also it's a little dumb. You know, who wants to put an action figure on top of their controller or their game console? But it's like there was some ideas there that were neat. And then think back, I think it was on the GBA. They had the fucking e-reader. Imagine if these Sony cards I'm talking about could be read like with an e-reader, and Sony put an e-reader device on the console, and you just plug the card in, and then you'd be like, it's kind of like putting a game in. Actually, it's kind of cool. I like Sony again. They're actually cool. And like you put your card into the next PlayStation. The PlayStation 6 has like an e-reader on it, and you just like swipe your card like you're swiping a credit card. And I don't know, you could do it with the games you buy in the store. You can swipe it. And Sony, you're welcome, by the way, Sony. You could also swipe your credit card in the PlayStation to buy shit. Like go all the way with it. You pull out your credit card, and instead of having to go into your account and you're trying to use the controller to like type shit in, like this sucks. God damn it. You're like, how do I hit shift? Which one of these buttons is shift? Which button is space? This sucks. What the hell? Instead of that shit, you just swipe your credit card in the console. It's done. And then the card reader doubles is it reads the cards that Sony sell. You can put the cards in there to get like items and shit. Or even some of the cards might have a game on them. Like the e-reader, Nintendo's e-reader had games. You could swipe the card and then a game would load in to the Game Boy Advance. There was like all this like code data, and you had to swipe it really slow. But I imagine now there could be a more mature technology. Maybe there's a little chip in the card, and when you insert it into the console, it just like transfers some data or something. And now you're playing like, I don't know, like what kind of game would you play? Like an old school, I don't know, like one level from like a PlayStation game. You're playing like one level of Jumping Flash or Ridge Racer or something. I feel like there's some ideas there that could be matured and would get people into it again. Like, actually, dude, Sony's cool. This card looks so cool, and it's got games on it. There's like a mini game on it. It's a PS1 game. It's got like one of the stages or something from your favorite PS1 game. It loads in there, and you play around with it for free because it's just a little, it's not the whole game. Maybe it's a demo. I don't know. And then you also get like some kind of item or equipment for the game that you bought. I feel like that could be fucking cool. Maybe sometimes the card even has like other stuff on it, like a song. It's got like a track on it from the soundtrack. I don't know, an unreleased song that's not on the soundtrack. I feel like there's some neat ideas there that Sony would probably never do, but it could be kind of cool. And I feel like it wouldn't actually add that much cost on their end for some cards and for a card reader. I think the card reader thing would be cool because like Nintendo had some ideas with this NFC and card reader technology that they've experimented with over the years, and nobody else has really done it. And then if you look at like what Skylanders was doing a while back, they were also experimenting with this kind of idea of having some kind of physical object that integrated with the console and with the game in some way. And I feel like there might be an opportunity here for a company like Sony to take that kind of technology and innovate it on some way in a very affordable way. Cards are going to be cheap. It's not like producing a figure. It's not like producing one of those amiibos. There's probably a lot more cost in production and manufacturing and in packaging and in shipping was something like an Amiibo that at the end of the day is still a pretty cheap ass product. But like it comes in a big box. The thing, it's got to be fairly high quality. It's got all these plastics and shit in it and different textures. And then it's got the NFC in there. And those things are like $30 or $40 now. I think some of them are even like $50. They used to be like $12 when they started shipping those things a few years ago. And now they're up to like $50. But cards are cheap as fuck. Just a piece of paper. And I feel like they could do something cool with that. And when you're putting something in the console for those people that like doing that, I feel like they would maybe be satisfied after enough like shitty posts and thumbs down emojis or whatever, turd emojis, angry horns and fire. Eventually they'd come around because there'd be like a Mega Man pack. Capcom would release a Mega Man pack of cards, and it would have the old school like 80s and early 90s like Mega Man, like Japanese Mega Man, and probably the bad box art one too. And they'd be like, dude, I'm getting that, so cool. And then you put the card into your PlayStation and you're playing like the NES Mega Man games off the card is a bonus for buying the new Mega Man Legends game on PS5. And suddenly, you know what? I was wrong. Sony's actually cool. I'm so glad I bought this PS6. That's what would happen. Because I feel like a lot of the people that are really angry about this stuff are the same people that would change their tune if there was like a Mega Man pack of cards in this game, and the cards had NES games on them, and there was a new Mega Man Legends 3 PS5 game that Capcom, it's like an evolution of their what, I forget the name of that engine, the one they use for Resident Evil 9 and for Pragmata, whatever the hell that engine's called. If they used that engine, like a next gen version of that engine for like a really sick next gen Mega Man Legends 3, and if you got that and it was on the PS6 and it looked amazing and it was path traced, and then you got a pack of Mega Man cards with cool art and you could play NES Mega Man games off the fucking cards, you'd change your tune real fast. All would be forgiven. I guarantee it. 100% fucking fact. Guarantee. Roll. They'd have roll on the cards, and the little Lego looking guys. I forget what they're called. The server bots, I think. Yeah, you guys would all fucking buy the shit out of that, and all would be forgiven. So that was an idea I was having. Like what Sony could do to win back the gamers, and with some kind of physical object that would persuade them to say, okay, you know what, I will buy the PS6. You're the best, Sony. I was wrong. And I feel like, honestly, Sony should probably be hiring me for these ideas, because I have more. I'm not going to tell all of them, Sony. You've got to we have to collaborate to get more out of me. You get some freebies, and then we've got to do business. So what else do I have here? I don't know. I was going to complain a little bit about Cyberpunk 2077 and all of its the fact that they are still updating that game with updates that most of the time don't seem to do anything beneficial. Not from my end. I've not seen anything. I don't have, like, there's no new missions, no new story quests. There's no new like outfits or hairstyles. There's no new like special effects and graphics, and no new weapons. And it breaks every mod every fucking time. It breaks all the every single time. And it wouldn't be so bad if they hadn't announced like years ago that they are no longer going to be updating this game, guys. Just so you know, we're done updating the game. This is the end. And then they updated it like 10 more fucking times. And just the other day, I went to test it out on my setup here and try recording it to see how it came out. and I couldn't even get the game to run. And I'm like, what's going on? And it was because they updated it again. And all my fucking mods had to be updated. And I couldn't remember how to do that. I haven't played the game in like a year and a half. And I just fucking kind of wanted to bitch about that. It's not really that relevant, I guess, but I don't know. Here's what I was thinking. A couple things here, they're all kind of somewhat related. And I'm just going to start here with this one. What I wrote here was, should Nintendo make a small dedicated handheld again? You know, like a Game Boy Advance SP? That kind of thing. A 3DS. Something similar to that. And I'm thinking maybe they should. I don't know. I'm not that smart. And I don't know if it would make sense currently. But from like some points of view, I feel like it would. Because maybe where they were going and the path that they were following, what they're doing now makes sense. But things have kind of changed. I don't think they were expecting this massive AI boom and this like massive parts shortage and the insane increase in price cost and parts cost for components for building electronics, for putting together anything that has silicon in it. And I feel like that's kind of changed the fucking equation, like significantly. Because from what I've heard, the prices aren't going down anytime soon. They're going up a lot more for a long time. I think a lot of people are like, any day now, there's going to be an AI crash. The bubble's going to burst and all these components are going to be dirt cheap any day now. I was kind of thinking that would happen. And I feel like that ain't happening. I think the opposite, actually. Like they're saying now that the prices are probably going to go up a shit ton more than they are now over the next year. And they're hoping, whether or not this pans out, they're hoping that it keeps going up like this for like another decade. That's what they want. They're hoping they can get away with that. And it might happen. And if that happened, like companies are going to have to start coming up with some new ideas and changing. They're going to have to pivot and change their strategy to stay in business. And I feel like you have to start working on that early. You can't wait till the last minute. And so I feel like there's an opportunity now for Nintendo to seriously consider making a small, cheap, basically kids handheld. You know, Nintendo used to always be about games and toys for kids. At the end of the day, like when I got into Nintendo, it was in the 80s. I was a child. When I really wanted a Super Nintendo, I was still pretty much a child. You know, I was like fucking 12. And when I bought my N64, I was like 16. And I was still pretty much a kid. And they were always like kids stuff. And it wasn't until recently that they started to become more like, if you're familiar with like audio equipment, like synthesizers and stuff, they're starting to become a little bit kind of like Teenage Engineering, where they make kind of like cheap, chintzy plastic junk. It's way overpriced and only rich people buy it. And it's like these like rich, privileged people act like they're cool because they have like a Teenage Engineering synthesizer that costs like $5,000 and looks like a cheap kid's toy. And kind of is. I feel like this kind of where Nintendo's been going recently. Like they got kind of full of themselves, and it's like, dude, these like the Switch isn't some premium $1,000 device. Dude, that thing should be like $50 at this point. The original one, that thing should be like under $100. Should be like $89.99 for a fucking Switch. And those games should be like $29. And this is the kind of place that I think they need to start looking at again. What can we make where we could charge something similar to that price? They probably wouldn't make it that cheap, but let's hope close enough to it that it feels that cheap. And they'd have to make something that's no longer like a home console kind of thing. You're not going to have a port of Resident Evil 9 on it. I like this idea because I don't have kids, so maybe I don't really know what I'm talking about. But I feel like a lot of young people, they don't really care that much about Nintendo like we did when we were kids. When we were children, they were like the biggest thing. All the kids talked about Nintendo at school. We all talked about Nintendo. We all like kind of, they seemed magical. It was kind of like Disneyland. I liked Nintendo way more than Disney. I didn't give a shit about Disney, dude. To me, Disney was like a thing old people liked. It was a thing like your parents or your grandparents liked. Nintendo is what I was interested in. Mario and Zelda. That stuff was cool. And I feel like most likely my feeling is that a lot of young kids don't even really know much about Nintendo or care. And maybe in their minds, like, yeah, they know enough about it. It's that thing that my dad likes or my mom likes or my grandpa likes. Is old people like Nintendo. They don't care about it. And that's kind of a problem if that's true. I feel like it is. Because that's kind of what Nintendo needs. They can't rely on people my age forever because we're going to be gone pretty soon. And then they got no more fucking fans and customers. And the stuff they make's kind of childish anyway, right? But they don't have a console on the market that's really for kids. It has to be something that you can just throw in a backpack. And your parents aren't going to be that upset about it if it gets damaged and it's durable. It's not going to break easy. The battery isn't going to die in 30 fucking minutes. It doesn't have 10 parts that all snap together and every single part has a battery in it and every single part's got a different battery level on it and everything's got to synchronize. And dude, that Switch, I do not like that thing. But like for a kid, like something like a Game Boy, when I was a kid, the Game Boy was like under $100 and you could just throw it in your backpack. You could put it in your jacket pocket. Sometimes, and with a Game Boy Pocket, you could put it in your pants pocket or with the GBA SP. That thing was so fucking cool. That thing was so fucking cool, dude. I was an adult, by the time that came out, and I had a GBA. And I bought it because the idea in my mind was like, this is like a portable Super Nintendo. And then I ended up not really using it that much because the screen wasn't backlit. It wasn't illuminated. And the console was kind of ugly. And the games weren't as good as I was hoping. But then when the GBA SP came out, like that all changed. That thing looked so fucking cool. It was so small. It just folded up. It fit in any fucking pocket. Girls liked them. Girls fucking liked them because they looked like a makeup case and they had all different colors and they were cute and it was small and portable and you could open it up and the screen had a light on it so you could fucking see the game anywhere. And it was like it appealed to guys and girls more so, I think, than the versions before it. I think that GBA SP was like a fucking amazing ass handheld. And then they never really did that again. With the DS, it was a little too big and clunky. The DS Lite was better, but it was still a little too big and clunky. That GBA SP was like almost perfect. That's the kind of thing. And you look at the tech that Nintendo makes, it's still kind of made for like a kid's hands. Those Joy-Cons are like for little kids. They're way too small for adults. But like that's what you got to use. So like they still have it. They just aren't making the right technology with their skill set. I feel like they could make a really cool, modernized, attractive, and affordable handheld that would appeal to both adults and children. And you could throw it in a backpack. You could put it in a pocket. It would appeal to everybody. Kids, adults, boys, girls, you know, like everybody would be into it because there would be all these cool colors. It would be cute and small and attractive and portable and affordable. And they'd be fun. They'd be fun. And then you think about the cost of the hardware. I started to mention this earlier. Kind of all connects here. The hardware, the components are becoming so expensive that like you kind of have no choice. It's like, because pretty soon that Switch 2 and probably Switch 1, if they keep selling it, they'll probably just discontinue it or something. That thing's gonna be like $700, $800, $900. It's gonna be $1,000 in a couple of years. They're gonna put the OLED screen on it to make you feel better about spending $1,000 on something that should cost like $200. And it's going to fuck over like all the competition. Everybody's going to get fucked on that. But Nintendo is like the one company I feel that could get away with making a handheld that's basically like a fucking PS1 or maybe like a GameCube. It's like essentially like the highest visual fidelity is like GameCube or something. I feel like they could get away with that. Because Nintendo already, first of all, they already have all of those that library. They already have that library going all the way up to the GameCube and then all the way back to the original NES that everybody would probably buy again to play on that thing. And they could make new games that you think about stuff like Mario Galaxy. I don't really like Mario Galaxy, but games like that on a handheld, they could still do that and get away with it. Like the 3DS, right? Like the 3DS was about around as powerful as a GameCube, or like the 3DS, the new 3DS, right? It was like a slightly updated version. The specs were a little higher. That thing was like just barely capable of running games like Xenoblade, which was a Wii game. And even on that thing, it looked and ran worse than on the Wii. So you just think about like, they were able to do that and it was impressive then. And if it was just like maybe just bumped up just a little bit, you wouldn't really have to go over that much more because that shit was already so good. It worked so well on that little tiny 3DS, those 3DS screens, dude. People love pixel art. They love the chunky graphics. It doesn't need to be fucking 2K or 4K. It doesn't need to have all that shit. They could make a super cheap, affordable, sick ass handheld. Look at all those retro handhelds that are coming out by that company. I can't remember their name now. They're doing like, they're cloning. And you could say clowning on Nintendo. They're cloning the DS, the 3DS, the GBA, the GBA SP, the Game Boy. They're cloning all that stuff and they're selling it for like $300 to $500. And people are buying it up. They love it. And I feel like Nintendo they could do one better. They could make a brand new one that's cool as fuck. And they've own all those properties, all those IPs. They could still make a sick ass Mario or Zelda or Pikmin or Pokemon or Splatoon or whatever property that they own, Donkey Kong. They could do all that stuff. And then, you know, all of the other, that's the thing, like the thing would be cheaper. The software would be a lot cheaper to make and the turnaround time would be faster. On top of that, the other, like this kind of has like broad appeal when you think about it. The idea of a cheap, affordable handheld that I feel like only Nintendo could get away with. I don't feel like Sony could release something like a handheld PS1, but it would be like a novelty item. You know what I mean? I feel like only Nintendo could pull this off and get away with it and do it well and do it right. And what this could allow is other companies, Capcom, Konami, Square Enix, all the other ones I can't think of, NIS, whoever, they could start making games that are affordable again, that don't require hundreds of millions of dollars. They could start experimenting with new ideas that they can't really do anymore. They could say, well, we don't have to take a $200 or $300 million risk on this new idea. We can do it on Nintendo's handheld. And if that new idea does well, maybe they make a sequel. And if it's still like doing really well, like Pokemon did for Nintendo, then suddenly you could maybe put that on a console. Now there's a PS5 sequel or something, or version of it that's for a console that costs more money. Now that we see it's popular and there's demand, now we're willing to invest more money into this and make a console version or a PC version or something. But they could start that experimentation on Nintendo's theoretical new handheld that they're making that looks kind of like a Wonder Swan color and in a GBA SP and a Neo Geo Pocket all combined. And it doesn't need to have an OLED screen on it. Maybe that'd be cool, I'm sure. And it could have physical media too. And the physical media lovers would be like, dude, yes, thank you, Nintendo. I'm going to buy a PS6 to get the cards with the card reader, and I'm buying the new GBA SP2. Dude, I think it would be so cool. Because then there would be this room again, there'd be this place again in the market for like innovation and experimentation. And you'd see all that cool shit on Nintendo's handheld like you used to. When you look back at like the 3DS, the DS, the GBA, there were so many experimental, cool fucking games. New RPGs coming from Square. Capcom making all these weird, cool ass games. And Konami, who seems to have an interest again in making some really cool fucking new games and spending quite a bit of money on it. They've got a massive fucking catalog. They could start putting some new games on Nintendo's theoretical new handheld, hypothetical new handheld, whatever. You could see like some really cool new Konami games on there. And they'd be like, well, it's not going to cost us that much money to have a new Gradius game on here, or maybe a new I think it's Konami, like a new Telekimeki Memorial. Maybe they release a version in English and it's a new game or something. They collaborate with Nintendo and it's like a fucking translucent pink console and it's got like it comes with the game or something. I feel like that could be fucking cool as hell. And that's the other thing they used to do with Nintendo's handhelds. There were tons of different limited edition colors. If you ever looked, go online and look up all of the different limited edition variants of the 3DS. And let me know how many of those you fucking want. There's probably going to be at least like 20. They released so many of those 3DSs, dude. You have no idea unless you've looked at it. Between the US and Japan, there are so many different, like the whole console is like a color or has graphics and art all over it. Animal Crossing. I have a 3DS. I bought the original 3DS when it launched. And that thing still looks so fucking cool. That thing still looks cool as hell. You know what? I'm going to fucking grab mine right now to show you what I'm talking about. If nobody's seen it recently, or just seeing like a screenshot of it or something doesn't count. Hang tight here for a second because it's just in the other room. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. God damn it. This thing's stuck on me. Took longer than expected. Give me a sec. I thought it was in the original box, and it was not. So I have the boxes. My 3DSs, I keep in really good shape. And I have the original boxes that look basically brand new. And they weren't in there. I'm like, damn it, where the fuck are they? I put them in a case, in a different, like in a tote. But luckily I had it close by. So the original launch 3DS, mine's still in pretty good shape. Actually, the battery, it's probably good that I'm getting these out. I should probably plug them in to charge. I'm going to try to hold it up here. And just like imagine something that's maybe like, has like maybe like a quarter or a third of this cut off so that it's more like a GBA SP. I don't have a GBA SP. Dude, I just think this thing looks so cool. It's got all these layers of different colors, like a fucking cake or a dessert. You know, there's like 3 different layers. It's like a turquoise kind of, or teal or something. And then it opens up here. I think it just looks so fucking nice. It's so glossy. It's so pretty. And it's small and compact. And it feels kind of solid and nice in your hand. It's a very nice, for a launch console, because Nintendo, sometimes their first attempt isn't great. Like the original DS, I think that thing's ugly as hell. I think it's so butt-ass ugly, and it's thick and heavy. And then, I don't know how long, like a couple of years later, they had the 3DS XL, and it was a larger console, a little bit larger. And I bought this one. Animal Crossing, limited edition. It's got all these like colored, it's got like apples, houses, and leaves on it. And it looks kind of like cute. It's got these 2 little cameras that look kind of like little eyes. It's not too thick. It feels very comfortable. It has a round feeling. Feels very solid. And then you open it up. You know? Like you don't want it any bigger than this. This is like as big as you want it. Nintendo. This is as big as you want it. The handhelds that I see now are so fucking stupid. They're like this fucking big. And they're like this thick. It's like 2-man lift to carry it around. And you need like an extension cord everywhere you go with it. It's so stupid. It's got like 10 fans in it. And you got to put headphones on because the fans are so loud you can't hear it without headphones in. It's so dumb. The battery lasts like 5 minutes. Like, what are we even doing? This is a real handheld. Right here. You know, you hold it in your hands like this. Small, lightweight, affordable, long battery life. Looks fucking cool as hell. And has games that are made specifically for it. Not some port of something on the console that's massively inferior and runs like shit and looks like shit. Like a game that looks good on it and runs well on it because it was made for it. And the guys on the console are kind of jealous that why can't they make a version of that for my console that looks real good? You know, like, because they like Square was making brand new RPGs that were only available like on the 3DS. And they looked kind of like a new Final Fantasy game. The kind of game that people that like the old school Squaresoft stuff, they're still getting it on the 3DS. They're still getting those like Super Nintendo and PS1 era games on consoles like this because they kind of had to be. It didn't have the technology in it to have something that looked like your PS3 or your PS4. And even if it did, it would have been too hot and it would have had a very short battery life. It wouldn't make sense. And it would have been too expensive. So it was like having a Super Nintendo and a PS1 in your pocket. And the companies were still making those kinds of games for the little handhelds that Nintendo made. And now we don't get that anymore. And they could be making these new experimental kind of games and you'd be getting them. And they'd be coming out more regularly. You wouldn't be waiting 5 or 10 years. You'd be waiting maybe like 2 years, maybe sometimes 3, maybe sometimes less, depending on the type of game. And I feel like there's kind of like a opportunity opening up here because it's not going to happen in today or tomorrow. But if they started working on this now, after hearing my little show here, and they're like, dude, we should do that. Maybe in a year or two, you'll see one of these things. A new fucking, it'll be like orange. It'll look like those orange translucent Wonder Swan colors, but it'll look kind of like something that Nintendo would make. Inspired by like the Joy-Con designs. You can almost visualize it if you look at those Joy-Cons. And you're like, now imagine that in like a little tiny little handheld that flips open or something like a GBA SP, but cooler and a little more modern, a little more futuristic looking. And it would still take some kind of game, some kind of physical media. I think it could be cool as hell. So that was what I was thinking when I thought, like, should Nintendo make a handheld? Should they consider, because you might think, well, they already are. It's like, no, not like that. No, I'm not talking about the Switch 2. I'm not talking about a Switch 3. I'm talking about something that's cheap and affordable and durable and small. The kind of thing that you could easily buy for your kid. Because it only costs like $150 or $199. And the games are like $49 or $39, not $100. And it's not going to fucking break easily. And they bring it to school. All the kids in school have these little things because they're cheap and all the parents are putting them in their stockings because it's $89 or something. You know what I mean? And it's got Nintendo's games. Like, you know, those are going to be fucking good. It's not like some shit thing. I feel like there's potentially some, and that's the other thing. Nintendo has always been about low cost, affordable devices. They would go with like cheaper components, cheaper plastics, cheaper screens, you know, like the materials, the components that were put into it were much more affordable. And they designed the whole thing around affordability. You look at that original Game Boy, dude. The thing's ugly as hell. The color, like the screen is disgusting. It's like the nastiest screen, but it was like cheap stuff and it worked well for what they wanted to do. And the batteries, dude, that thing took 4 AA's, but they would last like a month. It would last a long ass fucking time on those AA's. So that was my idea there on, should Nintendo do like a small dedicated handheld again? I think they should. I think they should seriously consider it because it could suddenly, remember how popular all those like GBA and DS Pokemon games were? Dude, those things were huge. I used to work with some like adults that were hardcore into those like GBA and DS Pokemon games. And like it was like their favorite shit to play. These like dumbass kids games. I never got into Pokemon. I never really understood it. I could see like the appeal because it's colorful and happy and cute and it makes you feel good. And like when I was like in my early 20s, I used to watch the Pokemon cartoon that was on TV like on a Saturday. I'd have like a bowl of cereal and watch that cartoon. It made me feel happy. You know, it didn't feel all depressing and miserable and negative. It was like a happy fun. Everything was so hyper vibrant and colorful. And it was kind of like an RPG or something. But I never got into those games. They were on like the Game Boy or the Game Boy Color maybe. I'm like, ugh, like why would this like dumb kid stuff is what it looked like to me. The cards, you know, I thought those cards were kind of neat. Like I said, I bought a few of them over 20 years ago briefly. Like at a Toys R Us, I bought a few. Anyway, that's my ideas on should Nintendo have a small, portable, affordable handheld. And I think, yes, they should. If anybody could do it, I think it's them. If anybody could get away with it, I think it's them. If Sony or somebody tried to make, Microsoft tried to make something like fucking $100 kind of cheap handheld with bad graphics and like a bad screen, they'd get fucking torn apart by the gaming community for making a piece of junk. But if Nintendo did it and they did it right, they'd be praised and they'd be the winners. And all of the not platform holders, but you know, all of the different developers out there, they would feel, I think, really compelled to fucking release games on that thing. It's like, dude, we can have a studio up and running to make games for that, like in no time. We could be churning out these games like on an annual basis. And I think they would be excited about it. And then there would be room, you know, like I said, I really do think this could potentially work where it'd be a lot easier if you were working for like a big developer and you had an idea that you were trying to get greenlit. And I think there would be a lot more room to like, well, you know what? We can give you that opportunity on Nintendo's handheld. We can do it there. And if it does well there and it meets these goals, we can have this discussion again at a further time, you know, at a further date. I feel like there'd be room there for that kind of thing, and it could potentially give people opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise. Anyway, I'm giving out too many good ideas to these guys. I feel like they should be. We should be working together, not just getting my shit for free. This one's kind of related, somewhat. Maybe not. It's somewhat related. I wrote, should console manufacturers move to making essentially a PC? And like the idea, I was just thinking, like, what is the point of a modern game console if it is essentially becoming just a computer? It's no longer this like dedicated, unique, original piece of hardware where it's got like some. I'm not an expert, but my understanding is that like in the 90s or even like the early 2000s, when a console manufacturer was looking to make a new console, they were getting like weird custom stuff made for them. And it was kind of like this combination of weird technologies that they put together with their R&D departments and their engineers. And it wasn't a fucking computer. It wasn't the same as your PC that you would have at home. It was like a completely different type of device with different technology in it. You were never going to have that same hardware in your computer. You weren't going to be able to go buy a card or a CPU or something that was going to be the same as what was in the Super Nintendo or the PlayStation or the Saturn. I know there was a few instances where there was like a company that would release a card, an add-in card, like for the Saturn or the PCFX that gave you some of those capabilities. But that's different. That's not really what I'm saying. that was like a really unique scenario where there was a collaboration to put that console basically into a smaller package that you could plug into a computer. And even then it was, you'd played like fucking 2 games on it. You didn't have the whole fucking library on there. And it's not really what I mean. There were different technologies. But now they're, from what I understand, they're pretty much the same. And the games are kind of like, you can have the same games on both platforms, PC or console. They're basically the same. They're made with the same sort of tools. And the hardware itself is essentially the same, is my understanding. There's maybe a few slight tweaks. You know, like the PlayStation, I think, uses essentially like video RAM that you'd have on a video card for all of the RAM on the thing, instead of having like a standalone like computer, like DDR4 or 5 memory, and then separate dedicated like GDDR RAM. It's just all GDDR RAM, I think. But otherwise it's essentially a computer, and it's probably going to be even more so a computer with the next generation and the one after that. So then it's like, what are we kind of evolving to? Just a bunch of computers? They're all almost identical, but like the shape is different, and maybe it uses a little less power. You know, you don't have the freedom that you'd have if you just built it yourself. You spend a little bit more money and build one yourself, because they're becoming so expensive now that you could almost go and get last gen's parts for like around the same price, and it would probably still be better. And then you'd have complete freedom to do whatever the fuck you wanted with it. And you could customize it and make it unique, and you could upgrade it, and you could take it apart and redo it. And, you know, you just have so much more freedom. And with the game console, it's just like, you got this one and done thing. You can't really, you can barely even open the thing up. You know, it's not going to be a good time if you want to open that thing up and do anything to it. Versus your computer, you just like take the side of the panel off the case or something. They're designed to be easily opened and worked on with a standard desktop computer. Any kind of, most computers, a server, you know, you basically just like slide the fucking top of the lid off. Some of those little small mini PCs, people think they're like, dude, I want to build one of those. Those things suck, dude. Those things fucking blow. I know. I've built thousands of them, and that's what I'm using now. I have a computer that I basically, I'll bet you that nobody else in the world has the same computer as me. I used to work at a company that's what we did. We built computers for other companies, and we built everything, any type, any style, all the way up to huge racks. 1U, 2U, 3U, 4U, little tiny things that fit in your hand, desktops, laptops, all-in-ones, you know, all these different types. And they were throwing shit out one time. These tech companies, dude, they throw a lot of shit out. They throw away like probably millions of dollars of stuff. They'll just like, after a while it builds up, and there's like stuff from years old, like rotting in aisles in a warehouse. And it's like, we're not working with this customer anymore. This stuff isn't valuable. We can't do anything with it. And like pallets and pallets of shit gets thrown in a dumpster. And it happens all the time. And there was this one time where like we were no longer doing business with a company, and they were getting rid of some stuff. And one of the warehouse managers, he gave me a chassis. And it's this brand called Main Gear. We used to work with them, and they had some old chassis that they used to use for building main gear systems. And it's just like little mini, it looks like an Xbox Series X chassis. It looks very similar to that thing. And it's all black, and it has like red LEDs in it. And like it has a fan at the very bottom, and it blows the air up out the top And then you have to, it only accepts a mini ITX motherboard. So you got to put in one of those little square boards that's like this big, and it affixes to like the side of the, because like the chassis is standing up like an Xbox Series X, and then like the board gets screwed in from the side. So like when you assemble it, you have to flip the chassis on its side, and then like all of the panels come off of it. Like the cube shape just comes apart into a bunch of flat panels. And then like the mini ITX board goes on one of the panels and you screw it down. And then you put like your video card in. And when you stand it all back up, and then your motherboard's IOs are at the top of the thing. So if it's sitting on the floor like the Xbox and you look down at it, all the IOs are right there facing up towards your face. And that's where you plug everything in. But it's also got all the ventilation there. And the fan, the intake fan, is on the bottom near the floor. And it sucks the air in and blows it out the top. And the thing gets really hot with a fucking RTX 4070 in it. They were not made for something like that. I happened to have the chassis, and it was in a box in my closet for like years and years. And I thought one day when I build a new computer, I'm going to try to use that thing. And when I finally did during the pandemic, I bought this mini ITX board. It was like a enthusiast, like overclocking ASRock board. It was like the only board I could still find that met my needs. I wanted to put good shit in it. And so I got a fucking i9 10850K and put that in there without realizing like there's only one heatsink like on the market that will fit in this chassis and that will be able to cool the CPU, that'll be able to like transfer that much energy, that much heat that this thing's going to dissipate. There was one single fucking heatsink that I could find like in the world. And it was like this fucking big, because it had to be flat. It was like this thick. So since it was like this thick, it had to be like this wide. It was like as big as the motherboard. And it like, because it was so big, it made it so I couldn't fit anything on the motherboard all of a sudden. And it made the whole thing so difficult. I had to take heat sinks off the motherboard, because the motherboard was designed for like, it was like an enthusiast board, and it had those like big ass like aluminum heat sinks all over it. And those got in the way. I couldn't put the CPU cooler on the board, but I couldn't just take all those heat sinks off and leave them off. So I brought them in to the place I used to work, and I convinced the maintenance guy to use tools in the machine shop to modify parts on my motherboard so I could fit it in my case. And I like marked shit with markers after measuring it, and it still didn't fit. So then I had to buy a Dremel, and I had to Dremel shit. I had to Dremel parts off the CPU cooler. I had to Dremel shit off the motherboard. And I was able to force all this together. And then I wanted to put an RTX 4070 in there, and they wouldn't. I looked at all the dimensions, and they wouldn't fit in this case, except for one single brand I found made one that seemed like it might just barely fit. And I had to take the whole thing apart and put it inside my case in pieces because I couldn't get it in the case otherwise. And then I had to put the card back together in the case. It was so hard. And then I was able to get it in there. And it's like the thing barely fucking is probably kind of like the Xbox Series X. Isn't that thing like a bunch of parts that barely fit in that thing? And it got so hot the first day I used it. I was using it, and it was like super loud. It was getting so loud and hot. And I got a little concerned, and I put my hand on it, and it burned my hand. I was like, oh my God, dude, what the fuck? And so then I had to shut it off. I had to look online for a really high RPM chassis fan. It was like one of those big, I think it might have been, I can't remember now, if it was 120 millimeter or if it was a 240. I honestly don't remember, but it's a pretty big fan. And the only one I found was in Noctua, and it was like a high, like a fucking like, it was in the different category. It was because normally Noctua is for like quiet stuff. This is like, no, this is if you need extreme cooling. It gets loud. And when it spins up, when it gets loud enough, you know, it's like, it'll spin the fuck up. It has to be like thousands of RPMs. And then it'll push enough heat out of this case with the RTX 4070 in there. Because the 4070 that I found was the style that's just a bunch of metal fins. It doesn't have the blowers type of cooler. So it just dissipates all of its heat out into the case. So then I had to find a way to push all that heat out. So I got this giant ass, it's why my computer is in a different room, because it gets too hot and loud. And then I took one of the outlets apart in my wall and ran all the cables through my wall into the room I'm in. So the computer's not in here. But then anytime I need to use it, it's really frustrating because I have to go in a different room to like plug shit in or reset it or anything. So it's a unique build. It's a unique setup. And I don't remember exactly how I got off on that, but it's related to this idea, I think, of like Sony and Microsoft going towards essentially like small, like custom PCs that you would kind of like the thing I built, you know? And I'm like, what is like, is that where they go? Do they just make a PC? Is it literally just a computer? You could put Windows on it and go to Steam and put, if you wanted to, because that's what Microsoft was kind of doing at one point. And I feel like now they're kind of back. They're like, actually, maybe not. Maybe we're not going to do that. But I feel like either you do that or you need to do something radically different. You don't just still basically do that, but then say, but we're not going to allow you to do anything else with it. What makes the thing worthwhile? And I feel like for Sony, it was like, well, we're going to stop supporting PC. We're not going to put any of our games on the PC because in a few years, we need to convince all of our customers to move over to the PS6 for $1,500. And it's not going to come with a controller or any cables or an SSD. And it's going to cost $999 for just the console. And then you're going to have to go buy another $500 of parts to use it and then go buy a game. So you might as well be like $2,000. Buy it. And then like the review sites will come out and they'll be like, you know, like the tech sites. And they'll be like, actually, it's cheaper to buy the $2,000. It's cheaper to buy the $1,699 PS6 bundle that Sony sells versus the $999 one, because then you still have to buy like another $1,000 parts to use it. Their $1,699 bundle, just it comes with everything you'd have to buy anyway. It's a better deal. Take our word for it, you know, and like they're gonna have a review on it. So I feel like, but so like I think they intentionally stopped making PC games to force you, like, well, if you want to play The Last of Us 3 and Horizon 3 on the PlayStation 10 when they come out, then you're going to have to buy that thing. We're not going to put it on PC until after you bought it. Like a couple of years after you like decided, all right, I guess I have to buy it. Then we're going to release ports on the PC after we made sure you bought it. That's what they're going to do. And then you're going to be like, well, I want to play it on Steam on my RTX 6090. And so then you're going to buy the game again in a couple of years when they release it on Steam, but it's going to run worse. Digital Foundry will do a tech analysis and be like, it runs worse and it doesn't have some of the graphics features and it hitches a lot. It runs smooth on the PS6, but on the PC on a SLI 6090 system with like a fucking $10,000 like AMD fucking what are those called? An AMD Epic like 300 core CPU or something. It's actually, it hitches constantly. It's got a lot of frame pacing issues and it's got like a judder. It judders a lot. I've been dealing with that It's like what was that Star Wars game? It still runs like shit on PC. That's why it's always like $10 on Steam, but on the PS5 it's still like $70. You're gonna see that scenario again next generation on your $20,000 gaming PC, and you're gonna buy the game for it because you're gonna, in your mind you're like, well, this PC is like 20 grand. I'll be able to max the game out and path trace it. And then the game comes out and it's like Sony's their ray tracing system's broken on the PC version. It doesn't run right. And there's a lot of noise and artifacting, and you got to basically turn ray tracing off to get good performance on a PC version. And you got to lower the resolution as well. You can't run it in 4K. You have to run it in 1080p. That's like Digital Foundry's like recommendation is going to be like, if you want a good PC experience at a solid 30 FPS, you got to play it at 1080p with ray tracing off on your dual 6090 system. Or you could get the 1699 PS6 and it'll run at like a locked 15 FPS on there, but you can turn ray tracing on in the menu and it won't break and it'll still run. That kind of thing will probably happen next gen as well. But like, yeah, do they just do a PC or what? Like, what are they doing that's going to make the thing feel like it stands out and that it has a purpose? I guess is what I was thinking. Do they just start doing, like, I was thinking of that. Like, what, like, would you buy, like, cause think of like the Steam machine. Valve has that Steam machine. What if Sony had a Sony machine? What if they had a PSN machine? It was just a little box. I guess that's what they're doing because there's no physical games. Maybe that's what they're going to call the next console, the PSN machine. I didn't even think of that till just now. I don't think I'd want that. I don't think I'd want that one. Especially if it had like a weird, like, if the plastic just looked like a wave of plastic. It was like a plastic wave, and then it had like an LED wave strip in it, and it just said like PSN machine on it. I don't think I'd want that one. You can't put it anywhere. It won't fit on your entertainment system, like in your shelf. It doesn't fit anywhere. And then if you go to move it, like the stand comes off, and the stand, that stand on the PS5 is like a piece of 3D printed shit, dude. It is such a piece of junk. It doesn't properly attach to the console. It clips. It's like this. It's like the kind of thing you'd buy on Etsy that somebody in their garage made with a 3D printer. It clips onto the back of the vent. And then when you go to move the PS5, it fucking falls off every single time. 100% guaranteed. The one thing you can say about the PS5 that was with the 100% will always happen. Every time you roll the dice, you will get that same result. Is that stand will fucking fall off if you move that thing ever for any reason. Even 1 inch you move it. You're like, I'm going to hold the stand with my hand while I move this so it doesn't come off. It still will. I don't understand how it comes off that fucking easy. It sucks. The thing is such a piece of junk. It's like at the afterthought, like after they designed it, someone was like, hey, Mark, what if somebody wants to lay it on the side? Well, they're not going to want to do that. It looks cool up like this. What if they don't have a spot for it like that? Or what if they have pets? Or like, what if a toddler pushes it over and Mark's like, oh, I don't have kids. I didn't think of that. Or like, I don't have pets. That's what I'm thinking happened. And then they gave it to somebody. Somebody just like 3D printed that thing up in the afternoon. And they're like, hey, what do you think of this? You just kind of clip it on here. And that way we don't have to redo the whole the production. Like, cause they probably already had everything finalized. And it was like, oh, dude, we can't just like redesign it now. So somebody just came up with a clip that goes on the back. That's how that shit happens in the tech industry. Somebody's like, dude, how did you miss that? How did you not think of that, Mark? What the fuck? And then somebody has to like fucking come up with this thing. One of the engineers was like, don't worry, I got it, dude. We got a 3D printer in the back. I think I can make this work. And he went back there and he spent the afternoon eating like a fucking tuna sub while he made this thing. He didn't really work that hard. And he printed this thing up and Mark loved it. And he probably got a promotion after that. Before that happened, anytime Mark saw that guy in the hallway, he probably didn't pay him any attention. And after the tuna sub guy made that bracket with his 3D printer, he was probably like, hey Bill, how you doing today, Bill? How's it going? How's the kid? He's probably started having a conversation with him after that. And made the guy feel like, dude, I'm going somewhere in the company now. That's probably what happened. I hate that fucking thing, dude. Fuck you, Bill. That thing sucks. Go back to the drawing board. Don't do that again. I hope they learned. And they're not going to do that with the PS6. I don't want the PSN box that looks like a wave. It's going to look like a little fucking... They're going to be like, what's that fucking like Japanese... Isn't there some kind of Japanese like wave? It's like a famous piece of art, like a famous painting that looks like a wave crashing or something. It's inspired by that piece. And it's going to be like this blue plastic wave. I don't want that. I want something that looks like a Sony fucking CD player from the 80s or 90s. Like I want it to look like a nice piece of kit, you know? And you slide it into your entertainment center. And it's like, that thing looks fucking cool, dude. That thing looks expensive. It looks cool as hell. That's how their shit used to look. And I want the buttons. I want it to have buttons and they light up. I want to see where they are. And I want, when I touch them, I want to have that feedback. Like, oh, that's a nice button. Dude, that is a nice button. Damn. You know, like having that tactile feedback is important. Maybe put fucking toggle switches on it. You know, like the fucking inspired by the controller from Steel Battalion. Before the PS6 turns on, you got to flip on like 6 switches and then you got to press like 2 buttons at the same time. But if the timing's off, it won't power on. You went like, and then it's like, and then you got to press them at just the right time. Otherwise, it's like, and then you got to redo it again. Then you got to flip all the switches off and you got to wait like a full 30 seconds. And then like the switches, maybe they got like lights that blink. And when all the blinking lights turn solid, you can do it. You can try it again. That'd be kind of cool, but I probably wouldn't want that. But I feel like they need to like go back to the drawing board with that design, and don't repeat the PS5. Don't be like, we're going to innovate upon that design. We really like it. I don't. The thing sucks. It's an awful design. It needs to look like a nice piece of fucking kit, and it has to be smart, right? You want it to be able to fit. Look at like audio equipment. Look at like the hi-fi audio stuff that people are doing. Some of that stuff's dumb. Some of it is. There's this like price point where you go up to around $1,000 for like a nice piece of hi-fi audio gear, like an integrated amplifier or just a standalone amp. And then there's like a power amp and they got like a whole stack and it looks cool as hell. And they got like a high-end fucking shelf to put it on. And everything's plugged in with cables that look like they're from an anime to plug in like mech parts or something. And the cables are $1,000. It's a whole separate discussion. But like that gear looks pretty fucking nice. And it's got like a nice, like clean lines, nice like buttons. You look like the knobs when you turn a knob for the volume or something. It's like, dude, that is a nice knob. Damn. And you go up like a few $1,000, $1,000, $2,000, up to like $5,000. And then all of a sudden something happens with that hi-fi stuff where when it goes up to like 15 or 20 grand, it starts to look dumb. It looks like steampunk. It looks like you're buying some kind of like steampunk thing off of Temu from like the Halloween store or something. It looks like the dumbest junk. And it's like, you look at the price, it's like $31.99 or so. It's like $31,000. And it's like the dumb, you're like, what the fuck? Is that real? Is that really how much it costs for this fucking phono preamp to just amplify the sound for my record? What the fuck? It costs more than a car? What are we doing? And it looks like a piece of shitty, what's that called? I forgot the name. Steampunk. It looks dumb as hell. Yeah, don't do that. You want it to look classy and like expensive, but not too expensive. I don't know what they're going to do, but I feel like we're moving towards PCs. And if you're going to do that, then maybe you just make a fucking PC. And it's like, well, you can buy a Sony PC. You know, they used to make Sony Vios. They had the Vio brand. And I think they had another brand that sounded kind of like Vio. Wio. I don't know, something weird like that. But then I had something else here that was kind of related to that, I believe. Yeah. I wrote this, I think, a few days later without reading through my other notes. You know, I would just write something down when it came to me. What could be done to make a console make sense in the future? You know, like what kind of technology innovation could we have with future consoles where it makes sense, you know, like you were always seeing something unique every generation with consoles. You know, like the Super Nintendo had this like new sound chip that could do sampled sounds. And when you started getting like, oh, it can do transparencies and multiple layers. You know, the PCFX could do a fucking like video layer that it could stream off the disc in real time. And one of the layers with all the pixel art could be a video source streaming in real time. Like none of the other consoles could do that. You know, and when like the Sega Saturn, it used those quads. Like nobody else was doing that. It's like the only console on the market, I think. The Super Nintendo is notorious for being a piece of junk. It has terrible sound, terrible graphics. But they were innovating with 3D and they were partnering with Silicon Graphics, I believe. I think they're the only console ever in the world, like ever made, that partnered with Silicon Graphics. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's the case. And like you can kind of tell. If you look at some of those Silicon Graphics, like 90s tech demos, they look a lot like some of the early N64 stuff. I think I even remember reading that like the Mario 64 menu where you choose your save file is literally like ripped out of one of their tech demos. It's like almost a one-to-one copy of a Silicon Graphics workstation tech demo with just like a different skin on it. And a lot of the stuff you see in Mario 64 looks kind of like a workstation tech demo kind of thing. You know, like when you jump into a painting, it like ripples. Or, dude, I remember like that shit blew my mind. When you're in the basement of the castle and you see that like water, that like rippling wall of water. And it's like, whoa, dude, what the fuck? That looks like CGI. That looks so fucking cool. They never did that again. I think it's the only game in the world that ever had that. It was cool as hell. At the time, it was really magical, but then it stopped being magical once you played, you know, a sick-ass PlayStation game. Once you played like Parasite Eve or, you know, Metal Gear Solid or one of the Final Fantasy PS1 games or Chrono Cross. You know, once you played something like that and then you looked at your N64 and you looked at Glover. Like I have Glover. Ugh. You know, like there weren't a lot of great games on that thing. But when you looked at all the games on your friend's PlayStation, he's playing Jumping Flash and you're playing, at the time actually, Mario 64 was a better game and it was cool as hell. But I think Jumping Flash is fucking cool. That's a game I want to see. I want to see a sequel to that. I want to see like a PlayStation 6, like $500 million Jumping Flash sequel It doesn't have to be that expensive. It wouldn't be. I just want to see, like, it just has to be that kind of tech demo like environment. And imagine what you could do with like modern technology with Jumping Flash. Maybe it doesn't hold up, but my memory playing that games, you almost felt dizzy. Like, whoa, I feel like I'm gonna throw up almost. Like you would jump up and then you'd jump up again. Like you would boost in the air. So like you jump really high and you were in first person view and the camera would like look down at the world you just jumped up from. And it had this really kind of trippy, weird graphic style. And then you'd boost again, like double jump. And I think sometimes, maybe I'm remembering this wrong, I feel like sometimes you could even triple jump, maybe not. And you jump way the fuck up, like into the clouds. And then you could see like the whole world below you. And then you would like fall down towards it and try to find like a platform to land on so that you could collect items or whatever you were trying to do. And then it's like, okay, now there's another item way over there I need to get. And you'd like jump way up in like the fucking sky again to like glide over to it essentially. And you were just like jumping way up in the fucking sky and then falling down onto the different platforms to traverse the world and complete the levels. And then they just never made them again. I was like waiting for a sequel on the PS2 or the PS3 or the PS4 or the PS5. They never again. And man, they'd be cool as hell. It'd be so cool if we got like a sick ass fucking modern Jumping Flash. You know how they're doing that? What is it, Astrobot? Bring back Jumping Flash, Sony. It wouldn't cost a lot of money. You wouldn't have to spend $300 million to do Jumping Flash. Didn't Konami do Silent Hill 2 remake for like $30 million or something? I was reading. I mean, they probably paid the developers like, this is how much money you get to make the game. And then they probably spent like $500 million on marketing. But the development cost, it probably would not cost that much to do a Jumping Flash game and do it justice and make it look cool. I think that'd be sick. But yeah, what could you do to make a console like make sense? Like what about it would stand out and make it seem worthwhile? Like for Nintendo, I like this idea I was having of a cool ass handheld. I don't know what a company like Sony could do, because if they're not doing physical media anymore, like it used to be, really, it was about the physical media. You know, I bought a PS2 because it had a DVD player in it. That was one of the reasons. It was like, well, dude, but it also has a DVD player. I can't afford one of those otherwise. And it sounds awesome. The PlayStation 3. I'm like, yeah, but it's got a Blu-ray player, dude. Blu-rays. I can start getting into HD videos. And then I had a Blu-ray player. And it's like, where's the fucking Holo player? Where is that? Why don't we have that yet? Why aren't our games like that? You know, that's what they could do. Like the game projects into the room. Like it's like the HoloLens, but better. It's just like you turn on the console and the whole room turns into like a fucking holodeck. I guess that's it. That's what they'd have to do to make that shit make sense, Sony. You're going to have to make a holodeck. That's what you're going to have to do. I press the button on my console and the whole room is like the game. And it's like one of those like 80s ads where I'm like blown back in my chair and like my hair's fucking flying out and my eyes are bugging out and I'm like, whoa, like it would have to be like that to make sense. I think, you know, nobody's like, the VR thing isn't going to take off just because of the way the technology is. You can't have everybody in the household wearing a visor while like the kids are on the floor crying, the baby's in the crib crying, and you're not even aware of it because you get the fucking holographic thing over your head. and it's covering your ears so you can't hear your kid screaming. You can't tell, like maybe he just burned himself on the stove and you don't know because you're playing the new fucking Call of Duty game. It's hologram or it's what is it? VR only. It's just not, you can never make it work like that. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with that tech. It's like it's a cool, novel idea, but it's not going to work realistically for everybody like that. Where normally, like when you can just put something into the TV and you're still like fully aware, everything around you, the TV can be dismissed immediately if there's an issue. But if you're like strapped into a bunch of shit and your whole fucking sensory system is overtaken, you can't do that. That's the kind of thing where I think VR makes sense. Now maybe I will just kind of transition here because like I already answered the question. Like Sony needs to make a holodeck. It's the only thing. It's gonna sell me on the next con. It has to be like a holodeck. I was gonna say something. I changed my mind. So the only place that I think VR would really make sense, and I really feel like this could happen if companies if they just pivoted to this, because like they've proven that VR works and that it can be cool. But like there's like two from my perspective, there's like three bottlenecks. And I feel like these are all like kind of solvable. One is that sensory system, like your sensory system is like overridden with the device. It doesn't make sense to have that at home, especially if you have like a family that you have to be paying attention to. The second thing is often what you see and what you hear is like, yeah, it's cool, it's neat, but like the games usually look and run worse than my console games. Like they look worse. Like it's cool that I'm in this world, but it looks like a game from 20 years ago. It's like it's a compromised experience because the hardware has to like basically render the thing twice now, and it can barely render it once. So they have to make it look like shit. So you gotta play something that looks like shit. And you want to be like fully immersed in shit? I don't. The fuck? And like the third thing is that some people they don't like it. They like it makes them feel nauseous or they're uncomfortable or disoriented. So like they just don't even want to do it. So I feel like you solve this by making this the new arcade experience. You go to a place to use it. And because you're going to a place, like arcade machines used to be these big fucking things. It was a dedicated place. That's where you played. You didn't play games at home unless you're playing like fucking Pong or Atari. You went to the arcade to play real video games, like a big boy. That's where big boy games were. That's where the adult games were. That's where you played Dragon Slayer. But like that really, that's where the real games were. Dude, when you went to the arcade and they fucking released Mortal Kombat and you're like, what the fuck? When you went to the arcade and they had that Sega fucking Coliseum thing with the pseudo holographic projections, or the fucking Gauntlet tabletop cabinet thing. You know what I mean? Like the arcade is where you played real fucking games and it was cool. And there was always some kind of weird new fucking technology that you would normally go to the arcade and you'd see Street Fighter and you'd see like the Aliens game that you played with like the machine gun, and maybe X-Men, the Konami X-Men game, and maybe Centipede. I used to play Centipede when I was a little kid. And then one day you walk in there and there's Virtua Fighter. And you're like, what the fuck? Is that real? Are people playing that movie? It didn't look like a movie, but like I'd never seen 3-dimensional visuals. It was like, what the it, like that, you went to the arcade for this like next generation experience on hardware that was like tens of thousands of dollars. This giant, super expensive, it was like a supercomputer. You could never have that game at home. Not in the next decade, you know? And so I feel like that's where VR could work. You could get one of those like NVIDIA AI workstations that's just like a giant rack of fucking cards. And it could render this fucking world that looks fucking like you would never have an experience like that at home. You would never have an experience like that on your computer or on your game console because it's being rendered on like an entire server rack of fucking workstation, like 20 GPUs or something. It probably wouldn't need to be that many. But like imagine something that had like fucking 12 fucking like enterprise class data center GPUs in it, you know, and like a terabytes of memory. And it's this world and it's designed as an arcade experience. It's not like this is a 300-hour game with this massive story with all this motion capture with Hollywood actors. It's like, no, it's a short, small experience, but it is so fucking amazing. And you know, you will never, you won't have this at home for probably another 10 to 20 years if you're lucky. That like it would feel exciting and meaningful when you go out and like, hey, we're going to stop at the fucking V arcade. It's called the V arcade. We're going to go to the V arcade and we're going to play that new fucking game, dude. You know, and you just go there. It probably costs like fucking $5 or $10 to play like one session. You scan your credit card and it gives you access to the thing. And because you got to strap something on, you know, maybe you go into a little arena thing. It's like a cushioned floor with like cushioned railings around it. And there's like an attendant, someone who works there that monitors you to make sure you don't get hurt, to make sure that like if you need someone to come take it off of you, they can do that. You know, they can like use like an intercom to talk to you into the headphones to say like, hey, you know, your mom's here to pick you up, or are you doing okay, or do you need help or anything? Like they can monitor. They have a screen where they can see what you're seeing, and they can make sure that like you're not gonna get hurt. If they need to communicate with you, they can do that. You know, your wife's here, you know, to bring you to the movie or whatever. And then you've got that like kind of safety net, and it's controlled. And it's a short experience. You're in this amazing ass thing that's being rendered on this rack of, you know, it's the kind of thing that could be made, I imagine, in real time, but it would look almost like a CGI movie. And you only go to the VR arcade to do it because it's not possible at home, and it doesn't make sense at home. It's like almost going to a theme park, you know, to an amusement park. It's like this new thing, and I feel like VR could transform into that if they pivoted that way. You know, because arcade cabinets used to be fucking thousands and thousands of dollars. I might be wrong. I feel like I remember hearing one time that like some of those units were like 50 grand or something. Like that's a lot of fucking money, dude. Like when they were brand new, like a Virtua Fighter cabinet or something. I feel like some of the numbers on that stuff, I mean, some of that shit had to be crazy expensive. If you remember seeing, there was like I don't know if it was Afterburner. It was some kind of fucking jet game. And like the entire thing is a cockpit that you got into, and the whole fucking thing moved around in like a fucking sphere. Like it moved all over the fucking place. There's no way that thing was cheap. They probably had to lease it or something. They probably didn't even own it. Like that kind of thing. Maybe you just lease the thing from NVIDIA or whoever partners with them. And it's like a collaboration maybe between NVIDIA and fucking Meta or something. Or maybe Meta owns the whole thing because they seem to be into that stuff. And it's like you get this fucking giant unit that looks like, it wouldn't look like a server rack. It would probably look some kind of futuristic thing that is as high as the ceiling. It's like a wall or something. And then you've got like this headset that you put on and you're in this goddamn, like, it looks almost real. And it's all like hyper, like high-end CGI, but it's like, it's real time. And you could never do it at home. And it would feel so immersive and so fucking cool. And then all of a sudden, you know, like the arcade is, the V-arcade is cool again. It's like, dude, you can't. Just like in the old days, like you couldn't get those games at home. You'd get like an approximation. You get something that's like, well, it's still cool. Dude, it ain't like the arcade. And you could have that if they just made some shit like that. Cause like the technology's out there. Look at all the tech they're putting into data centers. There's some beefy ass tech. You can't have like some of those advanced AIs at home because you'd have to go spend billions of dollars and you need a data center. And I feel like you could have some kind of, or like when you look at some of the high-end CGI that they put in movies, you know, they're not doing that on a PS5. But imagine what they could do. I feel like, maybe I just don't understand the tech, but I feel like you could have some really impressive shit if it was running on this like massive fucking array of high-end like workstation equipment. And you'd go somewhere to do that. You'd go somewhere to do that. And I could see a company like Meta doing that, where like they create this thing and it's something that maybe like an arcade like place leases. They got some kind of deal where they can make money. Both companies can make money doing this. And because it's so amazing, you were like, dude, we have to try this thing out. And you go there on the weekends, you go there on a Saturday or something. And it's like, dude, what the fuck? That was so cool. God damn it. I guess I'll go home after this and play my PlayStation. But dude, I want to go back there next weekend and play that I want to go to the V arcade again. That was amazing. Holy shit. Like, I feel like they could do something like that. And maybe you see this transition with some of this technology. You know, maybe you're not going to see a home console do something cool like that. Like I said, VR doesn't make sense to me at home, but I feel like VR could work in this like hypothetical future scenario where you go somewhere else to do it. And it has to be better than what it is at home. It has to be something you could never have at home. And I feel like that's where it would make sense. Is in a situation like that. And it seems kind of reasonable because it would be like a small arcade style experience. It would just be such like a hyper stimulation of your senses. It's so convincingly real, so beyond anything you could ever have at home that you would feel compelled to fucking do it. Let's see what else I have. This one sounds kind of negative. I don't want to just be negative about shit. I'm trying not to be. But it's kind of for fun. There's humor, there's comedy in this, but also I kind of feel like, really, like, who does care? And what I wrote here was, who cares about Bethesda anymore? Like, I heard recently that Bethesda was like, hey, we're just so everybody knows, like, we're like all hands on deck with the next Elder Scrolls. We're going to be doing a new Fallout game after that. Like, here's our, we've got a roadmap. Don't worry, we're on it. And I started thinking about it and I'm like, the last time I got hyped for a Bethesda game was like fucking 10 years ago, maybe longer. The last time I got hyped about a Bethesda game, I was younger and dumber and I was more easily manipulated. And I remember Todd Howard, like, he's a salesman, dude. he's like a salesman. And he like gave this talk about how Fallout 76 was going to fucking blow my mind. I'm like, dude, oh my God, this sounds so amazing. Holy shit, Todd. I want to get that. And then I realized after it came out, I'm like, I don't want to play that. It's just an MMO. It's just an online game and it looks ugly. Why did I think that was going to be good? I'm not into those games and this one looks bad. I'm like, this guy tricked me. Todd tricked me. He's fucking such a smooth talker. I believed his bullshit. The same thing happened to me with Google when years ago when they announced their, I forget what they call it now. Google had some kind of online gaming, like a game streaming service. And I remember back when they announced it, I was like, whoa, dude, this is the future. These guys are doing it. And then it was like, no, they're not. This thing sucks. I can't believe I got swept up in that hype. These guys, they're professional car salesmen. Like they're big bullshitters. Their job is to convince you and other people and investors that the shit they're selling is worth it. And oftentimes it's not. You know, if somebody's like a real big talker, yeah, I feel like that's going to start raising flags immediately. Like, whoa, hold on a minute. This guy, something's fishy's going on here. You wouldn't need to act like that if the thing you were making was so fucking amazing. And, you know, when I got into Bethesda's games when Elder Scrolls Oblivion came out. That was the first the first Bethesda game. I think they were called Bethesda then. It was the first game they did that I personally got into. I remember seeing Morrowind, and I tried it once, and I'm like, oh, God, this is ugly. It fucking feels like shit to play. This sucks. This is like a janky, ugly-ass fucking shit game. That's how I felt about it. And then when Oblivion came out, I'm like, this one's good, though. Wow. I wasn't sure because I hated that Morrowind game. I thought maybe it'd be more of that. But this seems actually like they improved upon that a lot. And I got into it. I really got into Oblivion. It became one of my favorite games. And I got it on the Xbox 360. And then shortly after that, I got into PC gaming. And I built a gaming PC. You know, I started off with like a desktop, consumer desktop I bought. It was my first PC I ever bought. I got a PC really late. I was like in my mid-20s when I finally got a PC. And then once I started to discover games and how to run them on a PC and how to do a few basic upgrades, I decided I want to learn how to build a computer and do it myself as a hobby. And I got like I think I talked about this, on something. I got like an Asus. I think I might remember the name of it. I think it was an A8 R32 MVP Deluxe, socket 939 AMD. And I put a AMD Athlon 64, 4000 plus CPU in there, single core. And then a couple of years later, AMD FX 60 went on sale on Newegg because they were like getting rid of them. And I fucking got one of those and put that in there. And I had a ATI X1900 XTX fucking video card, which was amazing at the time, dude. And I played fucking Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion on that. And it became almost like a benchmark game. And I loved it. I played the shit out of it. I cranked the graphics all the way up. I never got into modding it. I would look at some of the mods and be like, dude, what? But I never got into it. But I played that game a lot. And it was one of my favorite games. And then I got Skyrim when that came out. I felt like that thing took like 20 years to come out. I feel like I waited so long for that. And Skyrim, you know, I really liked it at the time. I'll be honest, I don't care about that game at all anymore. I have zero desire to ever touch Skyrim ever again. Zero. I own it. I have it boxed. It's in my bedroom on my game shelf. I have Skyrim, and I have, the Shivering Isles, I think, is for Oblivion, now that I think about it. But I have Oblivion, I have Shivering Isles, I have Skyrim. And then I have Fallout 3, I have Fallout New Vegas boxed on my shelf in the other room. And I just don't really care about those games anymore. They're like kind of like an artifact from the past, you know? It's like I'm not going to go back and play Halo on the Xbox. I liked it when it came out. I don't feel like playing it anymore. I am kind of interested in that new Halo remake in Unreal Engine 5. I'm curious. You know, if I had the money to buy it and check it out, I might do that, but I don't. So, but if I'm kind of interested in it because I like the idea of something that looks really attractive, and I haven't played Halo in like 20 years or whatever. It's been a long time. But the Elder Scrolls games, I feel like they were super impressive because nobody else was making big open world games. Nobody else. It was like they were the only people doing it. And once their games became big, once they blew up and they became like mainstream, then you started to see other companies come up and they were going to do a big open world game. It didn't really exist before the Elder Scrolls. I don't think so. What was it? Grand Theft Auto, kind of like it was an open world game, but dude, you were just driving a fucking car around in shitty, ugly ass graphics. About all you were doing, dude. Like janky ass, ugly fucking PS2 game that sucked. I had a friend that tried to convince me how amazing it was, and I was like, "Can I go home now? This sucks." I don't really like those games. And the early ones, especially, they're kind of bad. They're not as amazing as you think they are. There's something to be said about them. I'm being a little bit funny about it. There's like comedy in there, but at the same time, I really don't care. Anytime I'm on Steam and I'm looking around and I see like, hey, there's a sale on Grand Theft Auto 5, I'm like, fuck the fuck out of my face with that. I'm not gonna buy that. Get out of here. But the big open world games, right? Like they've been done by a lot of other companies at this point. I could argue better graphics, better stories, better mechanics, better characters, better art, better music, better technology. I don't mean it to sound shitty. I just mean like look at something like look what Assassin's Creed, like look what Ubisoft is doing with like Far Cry and Assassin's Creed and with Avatar. You look at those giant open worlds, like massive open worlds that are gorgeous visually and have a shit ton to do and have like amazing tech and stories. I'm not really into those games, but they're fucking popular and I can respect what they're doing. And then you look at like the Elder Scrolls, right? And it looks dated as fuck. You look at Fallout, those games still, Starfield, they look dated as fuck, dude. They don't look the same. They look almost like a game that came out 30 years ago or something. That's how it seems to me. And it's like, so who's going to be super excited for another one of those like in 10 more years whenever they make their next game? Because like that's the other thing. I'm trying to be. There's humor here, but it's also I'm kind of serious. Like, what have they done in the last decade? Besides like some mobile stuff, I'm pretty sure they've only released one fucking game in a decade, and it was a game that didn't do super well, Starfield, and anytime I've seen it, and like I've always been a Bethesda fan. Like I just said, I have a bunch of their fucking games on my shelf in the other room. They used to be some of my favorite. And I have zero interest in Starfield. Zero. I have never one time thought, you know what? I think I want to get that. Anytime I see it, I'm like, no, I'm not into that. And Also, kind of maybe to be a little funny, when they showed DLSS 5 and everybody was shitting all over it and they were threatening Digital Foundry and treating those guys like shit, after all the goodwill those guys have earned and all the content they've made, their fans kicked them in the balls and spit in their face and stabbed them in the back because they were impressed with some technology that they saw at a trade show that their fans didn't see, by the way. They just read some fucking The Inquirer headlines in like a fake fucking online news site or on a forum post, you know, and they kicked those guys with it while they were down, and they made them apologize like they did something wrong because they're like, the technology looked impressive, dude. Like from what we saw, that shit looked really impressive actually. And like it did. It did look impressive to think they were doing that in real time. Like it was just a filter, and it was like, it's more than a filter. A filter is like when your face gets smoothed out and you don't see all your like pimples and imperfections, or like the skin tone is a different color. That's a filter. That wasn't a filter. It was more than a filter. Do you know what a filter is? Shut the fuck up, dude. It was like real time changing shit in the fucking game. And when I saw it go over some of this stuff, I was like, I don't know about that. When I saw it go over Starfield, I was like, actually, that looks kind of good now, because those characters looked so bad before. Now they look like current gen. They don't look like Oblivion character models anymore. It doesn't look like fucking Morrowind. It actually looks like a modern game now. It looks almost on par with something like Horizon. Like kind of how I felt when I saw it. For that game, it actually looked really impressive. I was like, I might try that if I had two 1590s. If I had a separate 2000 watt power supply to power my $10,000 of video cards, I might try flipping that toggle on and fucking one of Bethesda's games. And they were like, we're on board. All the other companies were like, we didn't know this was going to be used on our game and we don't approve. But Bethesda's like, dude, yeah, it fucking makes our games look good. I'm being kind of silly, but it's kind of how it was actually. And I mentioned this in some video, dude. I'm going to mention it again. Everybody that criticizes this AI tech and they're criticizing DLSS, you should criticize DLSS 5, because DLSS is always about giving you more performance. And the idea that you would need two 5090s to even turn it on is fucking stupid. And when you turn it on, it's like barely running. That should be called something else. DLSS is the wrong word for whatever the fuck that tech is. AI enhanced something, right? Like it needs a different name. It has to be a name that sounds cool. You know, obviously they'd have to come up with a cool sounding name, but it's enhancing the visuals in a way. It's not improving performance. That's why you should be upset. But like the idea, like everybody was criticizing, and this is kind of an old topic now, but like I still see it going around once in a while. It's kind of an old topic now, but anyway. Resident Evil. What was her name? Ashley? I'm not sure because I haven't played the new Resident Evil 9 Requiem. I've just read about it. I've looked at screenshots. I've read about it a little bit. I watched a couple videos. I'm not a big Resident Evil fan as part of it. I like Silent Hill. I played Code Veronica. I bought that on the Dreamcast. I thought it was cool. I didn't even finish it though. Like I'm not that big into Resident Evil. I bought the Resident Evil remake on the GameCube. And I thought this looks really good, but I didn't play more than a couple hours. And I'm like, I'm not really into it. You know, I played Resident Evil 2 on a friend's PlayStation in the 90s. We rented it one weekend and played it all weekend, and it was like, this is cool as hell. You know, that's like basically it. I'm not really hardcore into Resident Evil. But I saw that game, Requiem, and thought it looked cool. It looks visually impressive. The characters look cool, you know, and I like the idea that it's a little more scary and unsettling when you're playing as, I think her name's Ashley. I might be wrong. But then when it switches to Leon and it becomes like Resident Evil again, I'm like, I don't know. But I haven't played it. Maybe I would like it, but I can't afford it. I just can't afford it right now, so I haven't played it. But when I saw the like DLSS stuff and all of the fucking angry shit on the internet about it, I was like, dude, you are all these same motherfuckers that are out there. What is that fucking game? I need to think, what is that game called? There's that PS5 game that I know it was called Project Eve. And when it was being developed, and I don't know, I can't remember what the final release is called, where you play as that hot girl with the tight ass outfit on. And then they recently showed like a reveal trailer for their next game. And that looks like a PS6 game. That looks like that I think is like Covert. That's the first next gen game ever seen. It's what I think that was. And it looks really good. It looks very, very visually impressive, I will admit. But all of you same fucker people, I'm generalizing, which isn't fair, and it's supposed to be, it's comedy. I'm being funny, but like I feel like a lot of the same people that are like shitting on them making Ashley look kind of hot and slutty are the same people that I would see leaving fucking like in comment sections for that Project Eve 2, whatever the hell it is. Like, dude, this day one by amazing. Like the same people that are loving that shit are like shitting all over they're making Ashley look slutty. That's so wrong. And it's like, dude, the moment you get that card, the moment you get a card that can do that, you are going to turn that on and you're going to lock your door and turn the lights off. We all know you are, you liar, dude. Like you're the same fucking motherfucker that goes on to like the Nexus mods and you get like the fucking nude mods for Ashley. You get like the slutty clothes and you get the little shiny wet skin. You get all that stuff and you force it on her against her will. And then you play as her the whole time like that. And then you're shitting on NVIDIA giving it to everybody without having to put in a bunch of mod packs, without having to download a bunch of mods, without it breaking the game. They're just giving it to you with a toggle switch. Like the same people that are shitting on that are like the same people that go out of their way to spend weeks or months getting like 1,000 mods so they can have like the sluttiest character in a game. And I just think it's fucking ridiculous, dude. Because like a lot of people in the gaming community do that shit. They're some of the biggest. All you have to do is go and look at like what are the most popular mods for this game, and it's like at the top of the fucking list, 20 million downloads. It's all that stuff, and I also download this stuff. Like my Cyberpunk 2077 character, she's pretty hot. She's got some revealing ass outfits on. She's got like a body mod. You know, she's got new skin textures. Of course I'm going to do that if I can. Hell yeah. Like I want to play as the character that I want to play as. And this is one of the things I like about it, about PC games and about mods. It's cool. You know, it's a fantasy. And the fact that you can do that is awesome. And being able to do that with a toggle switch with DLSS 5, what's wrong with that? Dude, it's not, but it's AI. It's not real. None of it's real. Like you fucking dumb as hell, dude. It's all fake. It's a fucking video game, dude. What the fuck? It's all simulated. It's just a bunch of fucking logic and code. The artist's original intent. And it's like, like 99% of that game is like engineer and code work. Like the artist is probably like 1% of that fucking game. What the fuck? What's wrong with you? There's like a concept artist and somebody drew a couple things in like some part of the program and then like 20. Why do you think the game costs like $500 million? They had to pay like a 10,000 engineers, huge engineering salaries, because most of that game is like a bunch of fucking logic and code and shit you don't understand. It's not just some fucking artist in a paintbrush and you're like defiling his work. Some of it is like that, but most of it is not, dude. The majority of a video game is like shit you don't even understand. It's like complicated fucking math and theoretical physics. You don't even fucking know, dude. It's not just some artist sat down at his it's not like a team. It's not like a development studio. It's like a team of a bunch of artists just drawing all day and putting their life force into creating this artistic vision. There's a little bit of that. It's like putting makeup on the fucking computer. It's just a bunch of like fucking code. It's like when you think of id Software and everybody like they fetishize John Carmack like he was a fucking programmer. He was the guy that doing all the crazy theoretical fucking mathematics and shit and developing new theoretical equations or something. He was doing weird shit like magic with numbers and coding that like it's so beyond the guy that was drawing the concept art for the Doom guy. You know? The fuck? There's so much more. Like probably 99% of the game is not art. If you think about it. But there's art involved. There is. And like I can understand when you don't want to see that defiled or compromised in some way, but I don't know. Then you're just gonna go get a mod anyway. I'll bet you'd have some. I'll bet you've got a few. A lot of people do. You go to any modding site and you just look at the downloads and it's all you need to know. So like I feel like it was really unfair and unwarranted that people got that upset and treated other people like such shit about it. I feel like Digital Foundry didn't deserve that. And I got caught up into it myself a little bit because like I was being pulled by that like it's like social engineering, dude. And like we're all being manipulated by some other people and some other entity that has like an agenda. And you're just being pulled along with it like a moron without taking a step back, you know, and making up your own mind about something. Looking at it maybe a little more logically, like first of all, like you're not there. You didn't develop the tools. You don't really know what you're talking about. So it's kind of unfair to then be treating people like, because I heard that those guys were getting threats. They were being treated like real shit. And that's not cool. All they were saying is the technology looked impressive. And then they listed why they thought it was impressive. That was it. And I think I mentioned this in the beginning of my video. Like if you even use your fucking phone one time for anything, you're probably using AI to do shit. If you buy anything on Amazon, if you're doing banking, I'm pretty sure your bank's probably using a bunch of AI and data centers to handle your banking stuff. So I guess you should probably just like get a horse and go live out in fucking wilderness and use a horse to get around and start like bartering with like little wood carvings and beads and maybe make some baked goods and trade them for your neighbor for some sugar or something. I don't know, dude. Like anything you're doing, any kind of modern technology you're using is probably participating in the thing that you're claiming is evil and that you'll never participate in. But it's convenient for you, you know, to go on Amazon, and it's convenient for you to plug in your computer and burn like a fucking a million watts of power per day to play a video game. Seriously, dude, this shit takes a lot of power to play with a toy for some like personal entertainment. Anyway, I don't want to get too off topic with that because I could. Like Bethesda. I think that's all I have to say. Just I don't know how excited I am about like an Elder Scrolls 6. I think it's 6. In my mind, like when they announced it, like I think it was almost 10 years ago when they announced that game, I was like, oh yeah, finally. But like the more time goes by and the more I think about it, I'm like, I don't know. I don't even really care that much. Another big open world game that's probably going to look dated as hell and be janky and buggy and have stilted robotic characters. And like that, one of the things I remember about their games is that like a lot of the quests just feels meaningless, you know? But it's how a lot of games are. It ends up feeling kind of meaningless. It's like random generated repeating side quests that never end. It's like, why am I even doing these? What's the point? I don't know. I'm not that excited about what they're working on. And I don't care about Fallout either. Like I played Fallout 3. I feel like I'm getting too far away from this mic. I played Fallout 3. I played New Vegas. And like I had my fill with those two. I tried watching that Fallout show on Amazon that everybody's acting like it was like amazing. And I watched like some of the previews and I'm like, dude, this looks cool. They got some big actors in here and it looks almost like a movie, like a big budget. It looks really well done. And I decided to check it out. And I got through one episode of that and I was like, I'm like, is there something wrong with me? I'm like, this sucks. This is some of the worst writing I think I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not that smart of a person. I don't read a lot of books. I'm not very smart. I'm kind of dumb. And this comes off to me as like some of the dumbest, worst writing I've ever experienced. I can't even stomach this shit. It's just like a bunch of flashy shit. And that's it. Like, I need more than that. It's like watching fireworks or something. It's like, okay, well, I've seen fireworks before and I don't feel like just watching fireworks. I could go play. What is it? I have that PS2 launch game. Shit, I can't make the jokes. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, let's move on. I guess I don't have any other. I have other topics I wrote down, but like I don't want to talk about them. I was gonna make fun of superhero movies. They suck. They're dumb. I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like doing it. Yeah, you know, I had some stuff on there that's just kind of negative. I feel like I've been negative enough. Game thoughts. Maybe that's enough game thoughts. And some of it's unrelated to games or it's kind of gaming adjacent. So what did we talk about? Physical media. Physical media. I like the idea of some kind of physical thing. I have mixed feelings about it. I just started transitioning into my little studio here for my YouTube channel because it makes more sense. I have a better computer in here. It was originally for my audio stuff. But it's all I got that's better than my shitty laptop. And I'm like, this makes more sense in here. And it's a better workspace. It's a little quieter in here. I have, for my microphone, like I have an actual channel strip in here. It makes more sense in here. And so I'm moving all my stuff in here. And because of that, I'm moving to the computer for my games currently. In the future, if I can somehow magically have the money to do it, someday, like this fantasy scenario, I would love to have the ability to capture high quality, like direct capture from game consoles with like a RetroTink 4K and like a dedicated standalone like capturing device, like a high-end capture card, a dedicated like workstation just for capturing that stuff, and having like a second display and then like a TV that I could play the stuff on so that there's no latency, so I can actually play the game and capture it at the same time. I would have all this stuff in here. I would have a handful of different CRT models and a nice proper camera that can synchronize with the refresh rate perfectly, so that there's no weird like scrolling like raster bar going down the screen, and it's like perfect CRT capture. And I can also do videos like that. Like that's another thing someday I'd love to have, but I don't have any of that, and there's no realistic way for me to have it anytime soon. So right now, it's just my computer here with direct capture of what I've got, and that's PC games. And probably soon, my plan is to do some emulation, because I can do direct capture of emulation, and I can get high quality 1440p capture of like probably just about any retro game or system I wanted. And I don't typically do emulation, but I thought, well, maybe I'll start doing some of that. And then I can have content like that on my channel. And what I'm getting at and what this all means is like everything's digital. There's no physical now. I'm not getting games out of my collection. I'm not getting out my Sega CDX that doesn't work, but I wish it did. I'm not getting out my PC Engine Duo R or my Neo Geo AES and hooking that up. I'm not getting my copy of The Misadventures of Tron Bonne that I've never played and would like to play on my channel, and playing that and trying that stuff. I can't really do that. So it would be like just digital. Everything's the PC games. They're on Steam or from the Epic Game Store or something. And or the emulation, right? Like it's all digital. And there's no physical games anymore. There's no game hardware. And in that future, and I'm kind of liking it. And I started thinking about it like, dude, maybe I just start going all in on PC from now on. But I've had that thought and I've had that feeling before in my life where I'd go kind of all in on PC for years. And then I look at game consoles and shit, like those things are garbage. I can't believe I used to care about those. And then a few years goes by and I start to get that urge again. You see that fucking PS1 game or that Super Nintendo game. You're like, oh, I miss that. That was cool. It was cool having that real game and looking at the manual and putting it in the console and getting the startup sound and seeing it running and, like the whole experience, playing it on the CRT. It's like, but that's authentic. It feels more real. It's one of the reasons why I started my YouTube channel. It's what I wanted to do. And I started doing that stuff. I was playing PS1 and Sega Saturn on my CRT and Super Nintendo. And I wanted to experience that again, the real thing, real analog cables plugged into the real CRT and the real actual original hardware. Some of it, my Sega Saturn, is the same Saturn that I bought in the 90s. It still works. I still have it. And I wanted to film that, and it just didn't work very well. But part of me likes that. But it is so fucking cumbersome and problematic and a pain in the ass. And half the time the shit doesn't fucking work. My Sega CDX doesn't work anymore. I was having issues with a bunch of the cartridges on my Super Nintendo. My controller kept fucking not working, and I had to unplug it and plug it in, and one of the buttons doesn't work anymore, and I had to switch controllers, and my PS2 Slim won't read CDs anymore, and I have to hold it upside down, and 1 out of fucking 10 times it'll work, And the controller that came with the PS2 Slim, and the thing's like almost brand new. I barely ever used it. The controller, half the buttons don't even work. It's just a piece of junk. It's like a piece of trash, dude. I can't believe what a piece of cheap shit that thing is. It's like I have all these issues with the real stuff. You know, one of the Neo Geo games, I had to take it out and put it in a bunch of times because the graphics were all corrupted. And I had a save file that was gone off one of my Super Nintendo games, even though I just replaced the battery like 6 months ago. And it's like so many issues with the goddamn stuff. And on the computer, I can just like fucking download it and hit play. And it looks super clean. It's just, everything's in one spot. I can just easily play it or capture it or record it. And I can get everything on here that I would want. And I don't have to have a fucking bunch of dongles and splitters and converters and shit fucking everywhere. And a fucking shelf of fucking games I gotta maintain. But then after a while, I start to want that. Because like the digital only experience starts to feel kind of empty. You start to have this like nostalgia, like, I just miss being able to sit down in front of a real CRT and see my console sitting there with the power indicator on and put that one game felt more special. I don't want to play this ROM list, but it'll feel special if I've got this fucking Secret of Mana complete in box that's expensive now. And I remember wanting it so much as a child. It feels special. I have it. And you take it out and you put it in the console and you turn it on and you like flip the switch and the light comes on and you see the fucking logo come up on the screen and you get that like kind of warm feeling. It's like, but I'm really doing this. I'm sitting here and I got the real controller and the real console's on and it's on a real CRT and it feels kind of special. And you don't get that same feeling when you're just like sitting at your computer and you scroll through your ROM list and you load up a ROM and it's just everything looks like too clean, too perfect. And everything, there's like no issues with it. You know, it's just like perfect. And it's like, oh, it even runs better now. And you've got like all these different CRT filters you can try, or you can just leave it clean and sterile looking. It doesn't feel the same, you know, and it feel like it kind of takes away from it. So like I go back and forth. I kind of oscillate, like I go back and forth on it over the years. But part of me also likes that idea. It's like I'm kind of conflicted, pulled in both directions. I like the idea of having that ease of use and being all digital. The idea of like, I don't have to maintain a game collection. I don't have to worry about all this hardware and getting things repaired and shit that doesn't work and getting things out of boxes and cleaning shit and having all this shit on the fucking floor to have like my consoles hooked up. Man, like half my fucking floor was like unusable. And then everything starts getting all dusty and dirty. And it's like, well, I don't want to take it apart and put it away all the time because it's going to wear it out and break it. And what if I'm going to use it soon? So I'll just leave it there. But then it gets all dirty and I can't use the floor. I'm always walking around everything. And but when it's all digital, I don't have to worry about any of that. You know, there's something to be said about going all digital. It frees you from that burden on the one hand. And a lot of people have had that same experience. They used to have game collections and then they just went all digital and they feel like, I don't fucking even worry about it anymore. It's so nice. I don't have all this shit in my house. I don't have to even worry about that feeling of having to go get it. Or like, it's going to sell. If I don't get up at fucking 2 a.m. to try to buy it, as soon as it goes on sale, I'm going to lose the opportunity and it's going to sell out. And then I'll never have the digital version. And then it's always going to be this thing that bothers me. And I'm always going to feel like my collection isn't good enough. You're never going to have that bullshit either. That's a waste of fucking time. Because then what happens, you know, is you get older and older Nobody else in your life gives a shit about your collection, by the way. And then one day you die and your family doesn't give a shit about your collection and they throw it in the dumpster. This is what happens. They want to get your house emptied out as fast as possible so they can sell your house, whatever they're going to do with it. And the first thing they're going to do is get rid of the grandpa's disgusting, like, garbage collection of shit, of dumb, shitty kids' toys that no one gives a fuck about. This is what's going to happen. And no one's gonna be like, let's price all these out. They're gonna like get boxes and they're gonna like fill them. They're just gonna dump shit in boxes and then like 2-man lift them into a dumpster and feel like, thank God it's finally over when they finally emptied your collection out into the dumpster. This is what's gonna happen. And you spent your whole life building that up like it was gonna matter. And like it was going to mean anything, or like it was going to fund some college fund, or no, it's never going to, none of that's going to happen. And a lot of that stuff that's worth a lot of money, like, who's even going to buy it? Like, you think like, oh, it's worth money. And it's like, you can't just bring that anywhere and sell it. You got to sell it to another collector. And other collectors are scumbags. They're going to try to rip you off. They're going to say like, oh, that was you're going to try to sell your expensive, like, $10,000 Neo Geo game to them on eBay, and then they're going to tell you that they opened it up and that it was like a reproduction, and then they're going to send you photos to prove it of their reproduction to trick you so that they can scam you and keep your $10,000 game and then send you in the mail their shit fucking fake pirated version. So it's like not even like, how are you even going to sell that stuff realistically? You're only going to sell it to other collectors, and that's probably going to be really hard to do and really difficult to deal with and stressful. And then you're probably going to wish you still had it. And then you're going to go buy it back like a year later for more money. And you're going to get the fake version, but you're not going to know it's fake until years later. And for all these years, you're going to believe it was genuine and feel really good about owning it. And then one day you're going to find out it was a fake. It's like you realize your whole life was a lie. Like, you won't have to deal with any of that if you just get a PS6. Sony's doing you a favor. We're going to bring it back to that. I have mixed feelings about that myself. And like, I feel both ways. I like the idea of physical. I like the idea of digital. I don't like the idea of both at the same time. It sucks. I have a PS5 and I have a few digital only games, and I have a small collection of physical games. All the physical games for that thing are trash. They're not nice games to have in a collection. They're junk. For me specifically, and I've mentioned this before, when I didn't have the internet, it was the only way I was able to play any of my PS5 games. When I bought a PS5, I did not have internet. And so I didn't have home internet for 7 years in this apartment because I was like unwilling to deal with Cox's bullshit. They kept raising my price and I was like, fuck them. And I canceled it. And I went 7 years like that. And then when I got the PS5, I still didn't have internet. So I bought the version of this console that had a disk drive in it, and all my games I bought on disk, and I just put the game in, it installed it, and I played it. I didn't even create a PSN account or anything. And like now I have home internet so that I can upload videos and shit to my channel. And I already maxed out my fucking like data cap for the month. So now I've got to upload all my shit from my phone, which is not easy. It's not. I can't remember if I mentioned this in some other video. Dude, I have to like plug my phone into the computer with a USB cable and then transfer everything over to the phone that I recorded on the computer. And it takes like an hour or two because it's like gigabytes and gigabytes of data. And then once it's on the phone, I have to go into developer mode on the phone to force it to keep the screen on, but it will only do that if it's plugged into power. So then I have to plug it in, which I don't like to do because I don't want to fuck the battery up, and I don't have the money to get a new phone. And this phone is like 7 years old. And then I have to go to the YouTube and I have to go to the web version. I can't use the app because this won't work on the app. I tried, it doesn't work. So I have to go to the web version on a browser and go to YouTube and go to my account, and I have to upload like that. And then the phone has to be left on and plugged in with the screen on the whole time with the browser open. And I can't do anything on the phone for hours while it uploads gigabytes and gigabytes of data because I ran out of fucking data on my internet. So, and like the idea of like now everything's digital, it kind of becomes a problem, I think, for a lot of people like me. I wouldn't be able to go download like right now. If right now, like a new game, my hair looks so dumb. If a new game came out and I wanted to get it for the PS6, I wouldn't be able to download it. I unplugged my modem because I got the notification. It was like 75% data warning. And I'm like, what the fuck? What? It's never happened to me in my life. So it caught me off guard, but I've been uploading a lot of larger files recently to my channel, and it must have just fucking went right through my data. And it's like 1.2 terabytes they give you per month, unless you pay like almost $150 a month to uncap that, which I can't do. That's a lot, dude. And so, what was I saying? So with like my plan right now, that's what I was saying. I had to unplug the modem because I got the 75% warning, and I'm like, whoa. And so I stopped uploading shit. I stopped using my computer to go on the internet. I started using my phone. And the next day I woke up and it was like 85% warning. I'm like, well, I didn't even use it. I didn't use it all fucking day. And then the next day I got up and it was like 97%. And I'm like, oh my God, what? How have I used like 200 gigabytes? I haven't even touched the thing in days. And that's a lot. Like you'd have to do a lot to use like hundreds of gigs. That ain't like watching a couple videos. And I'm like, what in the fuck? So I just unplugged it. I unplugged the thing. And so now I got to wait till the next month to plug it back in and see what the fuck happens. And like, if everything's digital, right? You are so fucked. You are so at the mercy at every one of these. That's part of the problem. It goes beyond just, I like having physical media, or Sony could take the games away from me at any time. It goes beyond that because it's like, well, now you're at the mercy of like Sony. You're at the mercy of like probably some of the publishers. You're at the mercy of your fucking internet provider. You know, you're probably at the mercy of other shit that I'm not thinking of. And like every single thing that you're going to do now has some kind of fucking data cap. It's got some kind of fucking plan, some data package. You want to watch like a Disney movie, or you want to watch a fucking HBO or whatever the fuck. I don't watch any of that shit. Like every single one of them has some different price plan, a different package, and it's all per month. It's ridiculous. You know, I think I mentioned this in one of my recent Silent Hill videos that I was doing. You used to be able to just turn your TV on. The only cost was buying the TV and then the electricity cost to use it. And you had an antenna on the top of your fucking house. Or, you know, some people just had the little rabbit ear things on the TV. But some people would have this big antenna on the top of their house to get like a better signal. And then you could connect however it worked. You'd then connect like your TV to like a jack or something that would connect to the antenna. And you weren't paying a monthly fee for anything. There's no monthly fee for any of that stuff. And you had all these channels, anything you wanted to watch on TV was basically free. And like the money was buying the TV, and then there was ads. There was ad money. They played ads in all the shows. But now you also have the ads, and you're paying a monthly fee for every fucking show, every channel, every service. And then just to use the services, the fucking internet, they've capped that now. I don't think internet ever used to have a cap on it. Ever. It was never capped. And they started capping it all of a sudden. Like, I was thinking about this. I'm like, that's a fake thing. It's not like they have a big tank, like a natural gas tank. And it's like, well, we're running out of internet. We only have so much to go around per month. And it's like, that's fake. No, you don't. You're making that up. There's no fucking internet tank that's running out. It's such a fake thing to have a data cap. It's so fucking made up and fake. It should be illegal. It's not some finite resource. It's an illusion. As long as they have like electricity and you're already paying them a fucking monthly bill, it should cover it. You know, they got like 20 billion customers. I'm sure they can afford their fucking electric bill. Like, it's so fucking made up. It's so fucking fake, dude. There's no like finite, we're running out of the internet, so we're going to have to start charging you guys an overage fee because our tank's almost dry now. We got to dig deeper. We had to dig a deeper well. It's so fucking fake. There never used to be a cap. My whole life. You signed up for the internet, whatever it was, you know, whether it was like dial-up or DSL, and you just had it. And then all of a sudden, these cox suckers started creating this fake ass fucking cap and then charging you. You know what they charge you to go over? You go over like 1 fucking kilobyte and they charge you $10 and they give you 50 gigabytes. That's like one video game is like 150 gigabytes. Some of them are like 200. So imagine if you were downloading a game for your PS6 and it was like 200 gigs and you went over your data cap and then it would charge you $10 for 50 and then another 10 for 50 and then another 10 for 50 and then another. You just spent 40 fucking extra dollars to download that fucking game that you just spent $80 to buy. And you can't do anything else now on your internet for the rest of the month. You know? Like, that is so fucked. And there's probably a lot of people out there in the world that have worse internet. And it's probably higher prices for like the overage. And it's like, it's slower. And, you know, they have like a smaller data cap or whatever. The threshold is set lower. How are they going to even do that stuff? You know, it's almost like Sony's looking at this from the point of view of like a rich person, and they don't realize like your average person is fucking poor. Most average people are poor, dude. They don't have like a fucking two gigabit connection. They don't have fucking like a fiber connection with unlimited bandwidth. They can't afford a $16.99 console. You know, they can't afford $99 games in a fucking $120 controller, because it's probably where we're moving soon. We're pretty close to it now. And that's concerning. That's like a lot of people have been talking about that. It's like a big topic. And a lot of people have been saying that like I might not be able to be like participate in this hobby for much longer. And that's where the PC comes into the play. That's where the PC makes sense. It's like, well, the price of components is so high now. And it's like, yeah, but you don't need to buy the newest, highest end components. That's kind of the cool. It's just like with retro games. You can still find a lot of times. Now, I'm sure it's going to start to change a little bit if people start doing this. But oftentimes with computers, they're different than video games and video game consoles. The parts don't retain value. You know, a Super Nintendo still retains value. Super Nintendo games still retain value. They go up often. Computer parts go down until they're like junk that nobody wants. Last gen's computer parts are shit nobody gives a fuck about. They go to the scrapyard. They go to the discount bargain bin store, you know? There's like computer stores that sell used parts and everything's dirt cheap. That high-end $1,000 video card from 10 years ago is like $20 at those stores where they're selling that shit. They're like getting stuff from like maybe a recycling place and getting the stuff, finding stuff that still works and then selling it for dirt cheap. And you could probably go find and build yourself a decent gaming PC that's going to let you play a lot of the stuff that's out now and probably all the stuff that came out last gen, and then give you the complete freedom to do whatever you want. And at a much cheaper price. You could probably find some of that stuff for dirt ass cheap. You can go back and get like DDR4 stuff or even DDR3 stuff. You know, I bet you a lot of that stuff is cheap as fuck. And yeah, you're not going to get the newest games with path tracing. You won't be able to do that anymore if you're priced out of it. But one of the things about PC, right? Like when I got into PC gaming, I didn't have high-end equipment at first. At first, I had some pretty low to mid-range parts. And it was about finding the settings that worked for me. Often I had to turn off anti-aliasing, you know, like completely off. You know, like anisotropic filtering was like 2x or 4x. You know, I would make all these compromises, like texture detail would be medium or something, or maybe I'd set texture detail to high, but everything else would be low because I wanted to at least have like a nice look to it. And you'd go through and you'd like fine tune it to where you felt like this is acceptable for me. And it gave you that like opportunity to tweak and change things around. And then like with PC, you have so many different choices. You know, you could do emulation. I like retro games, but I can't afford that stuff. You get like a PC that you got like this budget PC that you put together with older parts, and you're playing every retro game for free. And it looks and runs better, you know? And like suddenly it's like, dude, I can get this stuff for free. And you start getting into that like kind of underground, kind of gray market kind of stuff. And you start getting stuff at a discount or not paying for it at all. And you're doing that on PC. And you're like, dude, fuck this. I'm doing this for life. People will do that. They'll start going that route. And you could do that with, you don't need a brand new high-end everything. It's like, yeah, sure, you're not going to get The Last of Us 3 or 4 or Horizon 3 or 4 and be running that maybe at all, or at least with like all the high settings. But all the other shit that's like tens of thousands of games out there, and then you go on something like Steam, if that's something you want to use, and there's so many fucking games on there. There's so many, and dude, like you can go on there if you're into games like PS3 kind of era stuff. They put a lot of that stuff up on the PC. You can go on there and you can get Final Fantasy 13 and 13.2 and 13.3. And you can get all those PS3 Atelier games, you know, all that kind of stuff. The Tales of games by Namco. Like all that shit that was on like 360 and PS3 or even older. It's like, it's all up on Steam. They put all those on Steam. They made like PC ports of those games. And a lot of that stuff goes on sale sometimes for like under $10. And like suddenly you'd have this like whole world would open up where you're not dealing with console bullshit. You're not dealing with like physical bullshit. And you're also not participating in like the super expensive high components cost because you went with like, well, I'm going to put together a computer that's from years ago, you know? You look at some of the older graphics cards, like the GTX 900 series or 1000 series. I'll bet you some of that stuff's still really good for playing games that would have come out a few years back. And I don't know. I haven't looked, but I'm gonna guess you can get some of that stuff for really cheap now. Something that 8 or 10 years ago might have cost you thousands of dollars, you could probably get for just like a few hundred or something. And maybe be surprised at by like really like how well it still worked. You're not going to play some of the newest stuff. Like say like a Doom, the Dark Ages that requires a card that supports ray tracing. Yeah, maybe you can't do that. There's going to be some barriers or blockades here and there, but maybe you don't care. It's not just like all fucking doom and gloom either. Sometimes like that's what you do. You're like, well, I guess I'm going to go like to the junkyard and I'm going to start going through the recycle bin, essentially. You think about how much shit people throw away or recycle. You know, that all goes somewhere. It's all, we've like been building up this fucking stockpile. And for like all of us like poor peasants, like maybe we just start doing that. We start copying together like the old fucking recycled gear and copying together some kind of what works for us. And just fucking wait this one out. If the component prices are going to go up and they're going to go through the roof and it's going to be like thousands of dollars to basically buy anything modern, anything new, then maybe just stop doing it. Well, you know, I don't really need a PS6 or a PS7. I don't really need a whatever NVIDIA's newest card is. It was not that long ago. It was not that long ago. I remember I was living here where I am now when they were coming out with like their Titan cards. And it was like, dude, these things are like $1,000. It was like, dude, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? And it was like this sort of like holy grail, like only rich people could ever afford it. It would be so cool, you know, if I had one. That's neat. And it's like the place where I used to work, we would get stuff like that sometimes. There'd be like a work order and you'd get like, dude, it's a Titan. And you know, everybody be showing it around. Dude, look what I got in this build. And whoa, let me see that, dude. Like, and that was like $1,000. And now, dude, I'm pretty sure I heard recently that the RTX 5090 is going up to $4,000. Like that's what it's going for now. The fuck out of here. And it uses like 600 watts of power. I feel like that's like a joke, like this fake 600 watts. I feel like NVIDIA has always had to like brute force and cheat their way to victory. It's just feeding their hardware more power. It's like, well, they get better benchmarks or better score because it consumes 200 more watts of power than ATI's card. I just feel like that's always what they did. And like going to that high seems like you went too far with that. That's too much, dude. That's too much. That's more than the rest of your entire computer is using. Every other component in that computer combined is probably using half of that or less. The fuck is going on? They might as well just put like a fucking CPU socket and a RAM slot on the card and just fucking throw the rest of the computer away at that point. Anyway, I should probably just stop here. I'm going to start going on and then I won't end it. And then it'll go too far. I think I already did that. That's my game thoughts. I don't even remember what episode this is. You know, I don't have any kind of intro music. I haven't decided if I want to do that. Because I feel like everybody does that. They have some kind of intro music comes in. And like I thought about it. I thought about having some kind of intro music and then maybe having like some kind of screen that we see and then we transition. I don't know. This is dumb though. Like this isn't a TV show. I'm just some fucking average ass person in their fucking apartment. And I want to talk about some shit and record it. And it's like, I don't know, it's a little different like this. Because everybody else does that already. And then I'm just going to be doing that too. This is just slightly different. Maybe that's better. It's just me. So that'll be the end of this episode of Game Thoughts. And until next time, I don't like ending it like that. I don't want to say until next time. I want to say something different. So until then, goodbye.